Pray with you. Second, 2023 P. No. B R. Come on. I'll try one more time. 2023. I should do it. Hi guys, good. Good, we're set.
Just make sure you turn on your camera.
Yeah, sorry, I've got it here. Yep. So, we're all set. Get there.
Start.
Yeah, start. Start. No? Can't connect.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
And we're all set?
Yeah,
Okay.
just press OK.
Okay. Hello there and welcome and thank you. We had a technical problem at the beginning of the day and had to endure about an hour before that could get that fixed, and we ultimately changed rooms. But here we are. We made up pretty good time in terms of the morning applications. Sorry we're delayed a little bit in starting off here. I want to remind you what the Committee of Adjustment does, and that is that we're considering applications. We're making decisions on variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to a property. We also give permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and we consent to sever property to create new lots. Before proceeding further this afternoon, we want to acknowledge that the land we're meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and it's now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. All right, a few words about procedure. I'm sure everyone realizes now that you can appear in person or you can appear in a hybrid fashion. Some people will make submissions in person and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx, which is sort of like Zoom. And you'll have the option, if you come in by video, you'll automatically be muted, but when your item is called, you'll be unmuted and you'll be called on to speak. For both in-person and virtual participants, the committee staff is going to share presentations that have been submitted in accordance with written submission deadlines. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. Getting a copy of today's decision. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card. And those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure you include your name, address, and email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. What happens if you don't agree with the decision? If you don't agree with the decision that's made today by committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies, as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. So if you're looking for that, that information will be right at the bottom. Okay, a word about the procedure. I'm going to call the matters in order in our afternoon agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or the applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they want to speak to committee. The committee may ask questions or it may just take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I'll comment when you're reaching that 5-minute limit. Any presentation or materials that you wish to submit to committee, they must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members can't accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters that are outlined in the application before committee. The applicant or the agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application, if substantially revised, to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those are entitled to notice informed of the changes. But then, individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Generally, we first call on speakers who are here in the meeting room, in the hearing room, and then those that are participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, then the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. Then that'll mark the end of the discussion. The application will be taken into committee for a decision. Now, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, in the morning session, we passed a motion. We confirmed minutes. We checked that there were no declarations of interest, and there were none. There was one deferral request this morning. Is there any deferral request at all for any of the afternoon applications?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and panel members. I see no deferral requests at this time for our afternoon applications.
All right, terrific. All right, so we can move to the Committee of Adjustment agenda again, and we're on item 19. The address is 8 Elm Street. And I note from the application number, this is a consent to sever only. Yes, Madam Deputy Secretary, do we have an applicant agent on the line for 8 Elm Street?
Through you, Mr. Chair, perhaps we should introduce the file and just outline the materials that we have. We
Yes.
only have
Yes.
the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. So as mentioned, this is a consent to sever the property into 2 lots, as well as maintaining existing easements or rights of way. Committee has the following: a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a draft R plan of survey, 3 photographs of the subject property, a covering letter from Sean McAfee, planning consultant, covering letter from Adam Brown, the solicitor. A number of earlier decisions of Committee of Adjustment are referred to. There's a chart of existing easements. There are presentation materials from Sean Brown, solicitor. There's an urban forestry permit. And there's reference to site-specific zoning bylaws, 2 bylaws that in 2022 got approval from the Ontario Land Tribunal. In terms of comments, we have email correspondence from the senior heritage planner here at the city. We also have a community planning report. There are staff reports from development engineering, also from the development coordinator, property planning and development, and the TTC as well. So those are the materials that we have before us, as mentioned.
Mr. Chair, yes, we'll unmute Adam Brown at this time.
Sure, that'd be fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for hearing the application today. This is a very straightforward and technical severance. It's been through an extensive process. Planning staff wrote in to say, please ensure we maintain the easements that have been there and continue to be there while construction is being completed, which they are proposed in this application. Figure 2 that we submitted to you shows the 2.74 meter wide strata block, which goes from sort of the center of the earth up until the top of the Arts and Letters Club next door. And in fact, what that does is simply create the severed parcel that's creating a walkway with all of the easements that are both below grade and above grade. I'm happy to take you through the figures that we submitted to you, figure 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All they do is show the lot to be created, and the fact that there's physically absolutely no change whatsoever to the built form. It's simply that orange portion there separated from the blue portion, which again goes up to the height of the Arts and Letters Club, creates the easements that are referenced by your planning staff and I believe engineering staff. And this is very, very technical in nature. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Actually, when I reviewed the material, I found it not easy to follow. I just wanted to make sure there seemed to be perhaps horizontal severances as well as vertical severances. And so I just wanted to make sure we understood what the parts are that are being conveyed and what's being retained. So yes, if you've put together a little package for us in terms of some plans and drawings, it would be helpful just to clarify what you're seeking here in severance.
Absolutely. So the reason I did the plan that I did right in front of you with the orange piece,
Yes.
that's the vertical severance. That's the actual plan from the top of the Arts and Letters Club down to the center of the earth, so to speak. If you go to the next plan, figure 3, that's sort of the site plan that shows you again the width of that same parcel, just in a site plan version. And then if you go to 4, next slide, so that shows you again 4, 5, and 6 show you the easements that are crossing those lands. So it was complicated when I looked at it as well, which is why I did these colored photos.
Yeah.
So the one shows the orange, that's the block going from the top of the building to the center of the earth, and all of these other slides, 4, 5, and 6, show the easements that are required to be maintained, which is exactly what planning staff and engineering staff referenced.
Looked at, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
There's physically no change whatsoever that anyone's going to see. It's just a technical severance to create that block with all the easements, subject to the easements.
And what's the retained lands, if I can refer to that? Like, how is it?
The retained lands are to the east, so the land's in blue. If you go back to one of my other site plans,
Okay, say.
there you go. Those are the retained lands, and those are the conveyed lands in orange. And then if you go to even the slide before, I showed it in sort of a vertical, one more, sorry,
Thank you, that's much more.
the first one. There you go. Oh, no, second one. There you go. So that shows it blue and retained and the conveyed in the orange. So one's the vertical, which is the actual stratified title, and all of the others are the easements that cross that area.
Is the old Arts and Letters facility or a building, is it still there, or is it?
They stay in place. Well,
They
when
stay
we
in
did
place.
this original deal with Arts and Letters Club, we did a deal for the air rights over the Arts and Letters Club.
Yeah.
And it was an OLT decision, but it was a decision implementing a settlement. It was an extremely positive process, and they were fantastic to work with.
I think it was one of the places where some of the members of Group of 7 used to visit and do things there.
Yes, I learned a lot by going to those meetings, and I
All
learned
right.
a lot, and also they were very, very decent to deal with.
Thank you. Won't make any further comments. Members, any questions for Mr. Brown as to this consent to sever? And yeah, it's understandable. It didn't seem quite so straightforward. All right, just ask you just to hang on then, Mr. Brown. Madam Deputy
Absolutely.
Secretary Treasurer, do we have any registered speakers here?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no registered speakers.
I take it that you prepared, that your client would be prepared to add standard conditions of severance, which I think are pretty well known in the municipality, and
Absolutely.
the consents are subject to the existing easements, and you've mentioned those. And
Correct.
I have a note too, I guess it sounds like as a condition, I guess we should add that there's to be a construction agreement entered into with the TTC to apply to the property. Do you know about that?
I don't. I'm not sure that there would be anything required because it's nothing changing. I mean, we already have all our agreements in place and construction on the retained parcels already proceeding, so I'm not sure what that's about.
Yeah, and your west of Yonge Street would seem to be enough. Well,
We know the condition. It doesn't concern us.
okay, great. Members, let's take this into committee now for discussion. Yes.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Mr. Brown. That was a great overview. I think I agree with you, it's a very technical severance. It provides for easements, which have been agreed to by just about everyone. I think this is fairly straightforward. I'll move approval of this application, subject to engineering conditions, TTC conditions. Did planning specifically have conditions? There was an email that
They
implied
referenced
that
the
they were
easements.
going to give conditions, but they didn't?
See the,
Didn't see any. Do we see any? No planning conditions? No, okay, I didn't think so.
They said they were gonna ask for a condition, maintain all existing easements and right of way.
Right, which is included in their application, so I think.
And I saw there was no heritage concern or no heritage
No,
condition.
they're not touching the facades of the existing buildings. So I'll move approval with those conditions.
Seconder for that?
Second that,
All right. All in favor then? All right, Mr. Brown, that's unanimously approved with those conditions. Thank you.
Was that motion second by Peter Reed?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right, we're moving to number 20, and let's get that, 20A, B, and C. So remember, so we have a consent application before us and probably parallel variance applications to add new standards for lots being created. So let me just get to that item. Yeah, it's good. Yes, that's number 20A, B, and C on our agenda, and the property address in connection with the consent is 188 and 190 Donlands Avenue. Here's what's requested for the consent: to obtain consent to sever the property into 2 residential lots and to maintain an existing easement / right-of-way. For 190 Donlands Avenue, the purpose is to construct a new 2-story semi-detached ancillary building containing 1 laneway suite with a rear west 2nd-story Juliet balcony in the rear yard, abutting the laneway and Kings Park Boulevard. The existing ancillary building, semi-detached garage in the rear yard will be demolished. Also, the existing 2-story detached main dwelling will be maintained and unaltered. Application 20C with the municipal address of 188 Donlands Avenue. Here, they are to construct a new 2-story semi-detached ancillary building containing 1 laneway suite and a rear 2nd-story Juliet balcony in the rear yard abutting the laneway. The existing ancillary building, semi-detached garage in the rear yard will be demolished. Also, the existing 2-story detached main dwelling will be maintained and unaltered. In connection with these applications and on Donlands, the committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have a draft reference plan of survey. We have a revised zoning notice received May 26th of this year. We have a revised public hearing notice received May 28th. We have 5 photographs of trees on the subject property. And we have covering letters from Peter Milson as agent. In terms of comments from agencies and the city, staff report from Development Engineering. Opposition, there are 2 form letters of opposition, but no address provided. And 1 form letter in opposition signed by the owners or occupants of 180 Donlands Avenue, and that was received June 17th, 2024, just a couple of days ago.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent here in person, no registered speakers for this item.
Oh, excellent, thank you. All right, my name is, I almost said good morning. Good afternoon, Mr. Milson, sure. Perhaps you'd just outline in a concise way what severance you seek and therefore what variances you would need from the zoning to create a couple of residential lots.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. As you stated, the 3 applications before you are a consent application to sever and reconfigure the properties. It's an unusual lot configuration. 188 is actually an L-shaped property, which continues onto Kings Park Boulevard. And 190 has a disjointed piece of property along the laneway, which continues along both behind 190 and 188. So the consent proposes to regularize the lot pattern so that 188 is contiguous from Donlands Avenue to the rear laneway, and 190 will be contiguous from Donlands to the rear laneway. The variances that are being sought for 188, the majority of them actually are a result of engineering construction services requirement for road widening on Donlands and a laneway widening on the rear laneway. That is what triggers front yard setback variances, front yard landscaping variances, and some variances related to the construction of the ancillary laneway suite as regards to its setback from the laneway. For 188, the variances that are required or being requested for the construction of the ancillary unit are a slight reduction in the soft landscaping in the rear yard between the main building and the laneway suite, and a slight increase in the coverage of the combined existing dwelling and secondary suite. For number 190, similarly, many of the variances were triggered by the city's requirement for Donlands road widening and rear laneway widening. The variances that are being requested related to the construction of the ancillary suite are an increase in the floor space index, increase in the lot coverage, some setback variances related to the laneway suite, and increased height of the laneway suite, and reduction in the soft landscaping for the rear yard. In the case of 190, the laneway suite is proposed to be built outside, up to the lot line of what is the current number 190. So the laneway suite will occupy the new rear portion of the property that's being added through the consent process. The laneway suite at 190 is substantially smaller than the laneway suite being proposed for 188. The issue around the coverage and the gross floor area is because the original home had a one-story extension constructed on the rear of it a number of years ago, which inhibits the size of the rear yard. I submit that all the variances meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act. Certainly the impact of the variances related to the laneway suite proposed at number 190 are, to the extent that there are impacts, they will be felt by the residents of number 190, not by other residents because of the constriction of the rear yard there. The owner of these properties rents out both dwellings as single detached homes. They're rented out to families. And this proposal is to construct 2 laneway suites, both of which will be rental properties. So it meets the intent of the provincial growth plan and the city's official plan and city policies to encourage gentle intensification and to create more housing where it is appropriate to create new housing. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Just in connection with that outline, then there'd be a need, should committee approve it, then to have conditions concerning, say, a road widening and also widening a lane, is that right?
Correct.
Those are advances that your client would be willing to make.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Members, yes, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Milchin. Good to see you again.
Seeing you.
Your presentation was great, and I think the materials were quite helpful. I have no problems with this application, with one exception, and it's the soft landscaping in behind 190. So it looks like it's patio, existing cement
It
concrete
is,
patio?
it is the existing condition of
Get that.
what exists on that lot.
I wonder if your client, I mean, is there any way we can do a little bit better than that? I mean, the numbers are pretty low in terms of the soft landscaping. I mean, you're gonna be doing construction anyways. Is there any way your client would be open to maybe pulling some of that up or replacing with permeable or something along those?
I imagine that they would be. I don't have a specific number that I could offer you at the moment. But if a condition of approval were to increase the rear soft yard landscaping, that would be certainly an
We can do that, but, you know, we can't really, unless we have a specific quantum. The only other alternative is if we could increase it by whatever square yardage or square meterage and the resultant percentage, or, I don't know if the panel will be open to this, but if it was pulled up and put permeable pavers or something like that down. I leave it to you to decide what you think might be possible.
I mean, certainly, we'd be pleased to replace the existing patio with permeable pavers. We know, of course, the buildings department doesn't recognize that as soft landscaping, but, you know, I'm at a loss to suggest a specific number regarding an increase in soft landscaping. So replacement of existing patio materials with permeable pavers is something that, you know, I think I could agree to on behalf of my client at this time.
Which variance is it with respect to that? This is for B, 20B? Or
It is
20C?
variance number 1 on, for A0772.
Yeah, I hate negotiating on the floor, but, you know, looking at it right now, you've got basically 6.5 square meters for soft landscaping. You know, if you doubled or tripled that, you know, you'd still have some play.
I leave it in your hands. We will be very grateful for an approval, and we will adhere to whatever conditions.
Well, I'm presuming my colleagues don't have any problems with the application, so maybe what we'll do is we'll hear from them.
Mr. Wilkins or Mr. Reed, any comments with respect to this?
My only comments were just in respect to the severance and the criteria we're supposed to apply. I think it makes good sense to rationalize the shape of the lots with what exists in the neighborhood. And that supports approving the severance. And I think I agree with you that there won't be a lot of impact on the surrounding properties, adverse impact, and that many of the concerns raised were about the construction, but that will be something dealt with outside of this process. So I didn't see a problem with the proposal in total, but I agree with Mr. Clay about the soft landscaping.
Yeah,
Right, and doubled the soft? I mean, that's an easy calculation for
I think I'd be more partial to just increasing the soft rather than replacing with permeable, because I think that's an additional cost that is not necessary. So, yeah, I'd be fine with doubling it, Larry.
If we doubled it, then that's a fairly straightforward calculation for us.
Sounds good.
Are we in committee, Chair?
Where are we? No. I'm Deputy Secretary Treasurer. Do we have additional speakers?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we don't have any additional speakers. I don't know if you guys wanted to come out of committee and just confirm. Did you want to
Yeah.
double the landscaping?
Yeah, I thought I heard, I mean, sure, we can talk to the agent. I thought I heard the agent say that he's okay with whatever we might come up with, and it just seems like, you know, going from basically 6.5 square meters to 13 square meters. I guess we wouldn't know what the percentage of that was, would we? Peter, would you know what the percentage of that is?
I'm helping my daughter prepare for math exams for grade 9 tomorrow. I should be able to do this in my head, but we'd be at about 24%. I'm just splitting the difference between the required and the proposed. And if we double that, I think we'd be around 24%.
Why don't we say 25? There we go. Okay, so you're okay with 25%, and it would probably be like 13 square meters.
We will make it work.
Okay. I'm fine with that, Chair.
Good, thank you. It's good, good resolution of that. All right, could we have an application, as I say, because there's a consent involved as well, but to try to put our minds to what conditions, sort of standard conditions and that sort of thing are applied. But I think, Madam Deputy Secretary, I think that staff can take direction from standard conditions, that they realize what.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, it's automatic with consent applications that
Okay.
standard consent applications are imposed.
All right, I think we're in the committee then, and yes.
Sure, Chair. I started this, so I'll take this one on. As everyone, I think this is a supportable application. It is a unique lot. It's a kind of a creative solution to, dealing with the unique nature of the lot, and 2 additional laneway suites in this neighborhood, I think, would go a long way to help add rental accommodation to existing neighborhoods. I think there's really no negative impact on the surrounding neighbors. I think with the change that we've discussed, I think it's a supportable application. I'll move condition. Do you want to bundle them, Sabrina?
Sure.
Yep. So I'll move conditions, move approval of the severances and the variance associated with 20B and 20C, with the exception in 20B, we are amending the variance to read, in this case, 25% or 13 square meters of the area between the rear main wall and the residential building will be maintained as soft landscaping. I think that's the only amendment that we'll make.
All right,
Okay?
Is there a second there? Sorry, I'm sorry. All right, all in favor of those conditions? All right. All right, Mr. Milson, good luck with the math stuff for tomorrow. Okay. Approved, okay? All right, we have a further consent application and three applications for minor variances then for number of addresses on Oakwood Avenue, 587 Oakwood Avenue, and those are broken down between E and F, A and B, C and D. And I'll just take a moment and just review what the purpose is and what the materials are here. Yes. All right, the consent application then on Oakwood is to obtain consent to sever an existing residential lot into 3 undersized residential lots and to create new easements / right-of-ways. All right, in connection with 21B, this affects 587E and F on Oakwood. Here the purpose is to construct a new 3-story semi-detached dwelling, a 4-plex, with a front covered porch, a rear ground floor deck, a rear basement walkout, as well as front and rear balconies on the 2nd and 3rd stories. Also to construct a new 2-story semi-detached ancillary building containing 1 garden suite with a basement area, accessed from a front walkout in the rear yard. There'll be a total of 5 residential dwelling units on this lot. Application 21C, shown as 587A and B. Purpose is to construct a new 3-story detached dwelling, 4-plex, with a front covered porch, a rear ground floor deck, a rear basement walkout, as well as front and rear balconies on the 2nd and 3rd stories. Also to construct a new 2-story detached ancillary building containing 1 garden suite with a basement area, access from a front walkout in the rear yard. There'll be a total of 5 residential dwellings on this lot. I'll make a note here. And then 21D, affecting numbers 587C and D. Here's the purpose. Similar, to construct a new 3-story semi-detached dwelling, 4-plex, with a front covered porch, a rear ground floor deck, a rear basement walkout, as well as front and rear balconies on the 2nd and 3rd stories. Also to construct a new 2-story semi-detached ancillary building containing 1 garden suite with basement, access from a front walkout in the rear yard. There'll be a total of 5 residential dwelling units on this lot. Committee already has before it the following communications and material: a copy of a plan of survey, site plans, floor plans and elevations, draft plan of survey, revised zoning notices. Those revised zoning notices were received June the 11th. 12 photographs of trees on the property, covering a letter from Mr. Galbraith, his agent, also correspondence from him, and there's a private arborist report and a tree protection plan. In terms of commenting cities or agencies, we have email correspondence from community planning, also from transportation engineering, and we have staff reports from the manager development engineering and construction services, and we have supervisor of tree protection. Let me just check on that to see if we've got urban forestry conditions.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, there are
Thank you.
urban forestry
Just picking that
conditions for each of the parts.
Thank you very much. Yes, I see that. Okay, advisory. All right, there's a lot to unpack there, and maybe we can be taken slowly through it. If there are any diagrams and presentation material, that would be helpful. So could we hear from the applicant or agent, please, on this 587 Oakwood Ave?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item. At this time, we'll unmute Sean Galbraith.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes.
Sean Galbraith, planner here on behalf of the application, 18 King Street East, Suite 1400.
Is there a reference plan or plan that you have that we could put up just to see the parts?
Absolutely.
How they're being severed?
I think page 6 of my cover letter would be a good place to start. Not that one. That one. Yeah, keep going. One more. There we go. So this shows the 3 parcels, the north parcel, the middle parcel, and the south parcel. The property on the west side is on the east side of Oakwood Avenue, about 150 meters south of Eglinton.
Okay.
There will be 2, you can see little sliver easements in the middle of, or in between the north and the middle parcel.
Yes.
That is just mutual walkways for access to the rear proposed garden suites. If we go to the next page, there we go. So you can see here the footprints of what are proposed. So what it will be are 3 4-plexes and 3 garden suites. 2 of the 4-plexes will be semi-detached and 2 of the garden suites will be semi-detached. So this will allow for the construction of 15 new residential units, each of which will be 2 bedrooms on a lot that is well purposed for it in an area that is within a PMTSA and on a major street, which can now accommodate a 6-story building. The variances, I think, are all quite reasonable. The larger one would be the required front yard setback, and that's largely because of the properties to the north and the south of this lot have really, really unusually large setbacks, and so because it's taken as the average of those 2, the variance seems larger than what is actually prevailing in the neighborhood, and this is pretty much right around the average. I'm happy to walk through any specific questions you have about any of the specific variances, But that's the sort of the gist of the application.
Okay, thank you. Members, questions for Mr. Galbraith? So you're saying that all those units would have 2 bedrooms? Okay.
That's correct.
And
Prior to submitting the application also, we spoke with planning staff and they were totally in support of this and they don't have any comment, nor does transportation services.
And I don't know all the standards pertaining to garden suites, but are they met, or is there some relief you need from those?
We do need relief for the garden suites. So they are proposed to be, to not have an angular plane going towards the front and the rear. They will have the required angular plane to the sides. And then also they trigger a rear yard soft landscaping variance, quite a minor one. There are illustrations of both of those provided in this covering letter document. On page 14, it shows the soft landscaping, and in page 15, it shows the angular planes. So there we go. So in our soft landscaping calculation, we included all of those little squares. And even then, the soft landscaping variance, depending on which of the 3 lots, we're required to provide 50%, and we're proposing between 42 and 46%, depending on which of the lot it is. That takes into account these squares, which could still be done as permeable pavers. It just allows for some flexibility in the design of the walkways themselves.
As a walkway, sorry, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And above 40% in any case, and all 3, okay, good.
That's correct.
Members, yeah. Any further questions for Mr. Galbraith?
Not for me, thanks.
No. All right, I'll ask you just to stand by then, and understand there are no other speakers, so let us take this in committee for discussion. I'd say a lot going on in terms of 15 residential units, but, you know, that would be, I think, in harmony with what the city is trying to do in terms of making you know, residential space available.
Yeah, I'll start with just some comments. I think this is, yeah, it's a relatively aggressive application, I think, but I think it's well conceived, and I think the fact that there are 3 properties being created out of this with multiple units per, I think it's more positive than just having a solo application here, especially given the location on a major street and close to a significant transit. The variances that are required for this are relatively low. And I think it's a very good application. I think it's supportable. I don't know if colleagues have some comments.
Chair, I'd just echo those statements. I think it is an excellent proposal. This is, I think, what the city's trying to achieve when they brought in multiplex legislation, is to try and get this kind of intensity on existing available lots. There's no demolition. This is an existing vacant lot. As Peter notes, it's like a 2-minute walk to Eglinton, where there'll be higher order transit eventually, if maybe.
That's there, yeah.
Maybe someday.
Right.
And the variances are really quite minor. I thought, in fact, the design of both the main dwellings and the laneway suites was quite attractive. And just one last comment, I'd just like to commend Mr. Galbraith. Your cover letter was excellent in terms of providing excellent interpretation of a fairly complicated application, complete with illustrations and helpful elements, which made it easier to review and understand this application. So thank you for that. And if no one else has any comments, do you want me? Chair, were you okay? I'll make a motion.
Yes, Be fine, thank you.
So for the reasons we've just talked about, this is a very supportable application. I'd like to move approval, subject to the standard engineering conditions. There's an unusual configuration of forestry conditions. Part 5 is subject to forestry condition number 2, parts 1 and 2 to number 3, and parts 3 and 4 to number 3. And I don't think there's any other conditions.
That's it.
So I'll move approval with those conditions.
I'll second that, Chair.
All right, thank you. Second by Mr. Reed. Okay, all in favor then? Yes. It's been unanimously approved, so that consent and variance relating to Oakwood Avenue is approved, subject to conditions, as stated. All right. We move now to item 22 on the afternoon agenda. The property address is 324 332 Richmond Street. And I note that it's in Spadina, Fort York ward, so we just have a kind of an idea how west that is. 324 332, sorry. Okay. And with respect to item 22 then, here's the purpose of the application. To alter the development standards as approved under site-specific zoning bylaw 1041/2014 to permit the conversion of 20 of the 25 existing visitor parking spaces into residential parking spaces. The existing two car share parking spaces will be maintained and unaltered. In connection with that, we have minutes from December 6th, I take it, of this committee. We have a plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have a covering letter from Andrew Francic as agent, and a parking study by Joseph Doran. So, all right, item 22.
For you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent. We don't have any registered speakers. So we'll unmute the agent.
Yes, thank you.
Start with Brandon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hear me?
Hi, can you speak up a little louder? Just a little muffled.
Hi, can you hear me better now?
A little better.
Okay. So my name is Brandon Liao. I'm a planner here at W&D Associates. We're the agents on the application acting for the owners, and our address is 90 Eglinton Avenue East, Suite 970 in Toronto, Ontario.
Brendan, are you speaking instead of Andrew?
Yes, I'll be speaking instead of
Okay,
Andrew.
perfect, thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm prepared to provide a brief overview of the application if you'd like. If members are content with the materials they received, I'm happy to stand down and answer any questions you may have.
Yeah. All right, I think we'll just have you stand by and members, and maybe it's just me. So there are 25 existing visitor spaces, and they want to convert 20 of those into residential parking spaces. Yeah. Sure, Peter, what do you think?
Thanks, Chair. On the previous time you came before the panel, there was a report from Transportation Services recommending refusal. So, and that was one of the reasons the deferral happened. Can you speak to what happened in those conversations since then?
Yes. So in the time, I think we were before a committee in December of 2023, and we worked with transportation staff over the course of the winter to understand their concerns and prepare a parking utilization study. That was done by Lee Consulting to assess the parking use of the existing spaces and the available supply in the surrounding area. With that, we appreciate Transportation Services staff cooperation, and they've written a report in support of the variances following the justification provided in the parking study.
Okay. We don't have that report.
I don't have the report.
We have the report from Lee, and we've reviewed that, but we don't have a report from staff from transportation staff.
Sorry, I'm just reviewing here. The report was dated June 3rd, 2024, in the package of materials on the AIC here. Sorry, dated May 31st in the package of materials posted to the AIC.
There was no supplementary report on this that I can see, so nothing very recent.
I'm just wondering if staff is able to pull that up, maybe from the AIC, this report from transportation supposedly, May 31st.
Mr. Chair and members, I'm happy to provide some additional context on the application as staff pull that up for you. If you'd like to go over some of our thinking, the compliance with the city's current parking standards.
That's Oakwood, that's Wood.
I'm okay, I don't need much more information. I think you're right, let's just verify that we've got a report.
Yeah, thanks applicant. I don't think we need any more background information. We understand the context that it's in. We're just trying to get the staff report up.
Okay, can we just proceed with that a little further then?
Sure. So to the agent, do you see the transportation seems to be recommending a slight amendment of the variance with language specific to it. Is that fine with you?
Yeah, we work with transportation staff to refine that language, and we have no issues with it.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, just give me a moment here.
Are we in committee?
Yes, let's go to the committee, yes. Okay.
Sure. Okay. I'm happy, thanks to the agent for getting
Yes.
for getting us this information. Thanks staff for pulling it up. I think these are minor variances, and I reviewed the Lee study, and I think that was supportive of what's being requested. I move approval of the application. I'm just wondering, Sabrina, through you, if we should, it's probably cleaner to just leave the variance as is and then add the conditional language that transportation is adding as a condition. Is that cleaner?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that would be fine.
Okay. So that's my motion, please.
Seconder for that then, please. Okay. All right. All in favor of that? All right. Thank you. All right, that's approved with that rider or condition in terms of transportation engineering. Okay, just give me a moment here. All right, in terms of our afternoon agenda now, then we're proceeding to item 23. The address is 11 Willard Gardens. The application is to alter the existing 3-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear 1-story addition. Committee has before it the following: a copy of minutes from the February 14th, 24 public hearing and the material submitted for consideration. Look at that. Copy of plan of survey, revised site plan, floor plans and elevations, an arborist report by raise oak tree care, excuse me. All right, in terms of commenting agencies and reports, we have email correspondence from application technician, committee of adjustment, and also from a planner and community planning from the OIC, from the ravine and natural feature section. And finally, a staff report from the supervisor, ravine and natural feature protection. Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, we do have the agent here in person today. We do have one registered speaker in opposition online.
Okay,
So
good.
we'll hear from the agent first and then go to the speaker. Yeah, there is someone, Mr. Nicholas Singh will be speaking.
Okay.
Okay,
Hi, good afternoon.
yeah, just a moment, please.
Sure, I'm just taking a look myself, so there are two variances requested.
Yeah, my name is Chaim Ribak, and I'm presenting for 11 Willard Gardens. We're asking for a very small addition at the rear, one-story addition at the rear. The family is growing. They need to expand a little bit to make especially the first floor for the family to be able to work well. The other item that was, even though it was not a variance, it was sensitive because of the area where it is with all the trees and of course the ravine and all that. So we addressed all the issues. We got an arborist, and I want to say that the client and his family simply love the area that they live in. And it's very important, most important to them is to protect the nature that surround them as much as possible. We have an arborist, and he is part of our construction team, and we are following the everything that we have from the urban forestry recommendations, and we would basically making sure that all is going to be taken care of, especially the tree protections and all that. We're provided with all the information needed for this. I would like to emphasize that the proposed story addition, the one-story addition that we want to construct, is on existing paved area at the back of the house. And the ground structure support or foundation will be done with helic piles and no heavy equipment. That's the idea. So it will be very small impact, if at all, on the what we have there, the surrounding. And the only change that it's there, as you can see, is the small change to the welling, to the retaining wall. And what we are doing this, we're working with the supervision of the arborist and preparation for the construction, so it'll be done completely without disturbing. There's no trees in the area that it is, and it's just a very small, in order to be able to just have a little bit more comfortable access around the building, about the house. That's all what it is. So it's very clear. So we're trying to do all of this, and we have the support of all the neighbors and every one of them, and we talked to the forestry department. We got their approval with some conditions basically to meet, which is basically to protect the trees, and we are going to do that completely with no anything.
Yes, I don't see any urban forestry conditions, but.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, yeah, I don't see urban forestry adding any conditions here.
There's an RNFP condition, Chair.
It's caught up there then.
That's correct. Number 1, condition number 1.
All right.
And it's dated June 12th, the memo. It's on the screen being presented.
Yes, thank you. Good, yes, as we would expect, yep, by the application, all right. All right, thanks, sir. Any questions for the applicant agent here? No? All right, okay. All right, thank you, sir, and I understand there's one speaker,
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, there is one speaker at this time. We'll unmute Nicholas Singh.
okay?
Yes, good afternoon, Nicholas Singh, Swansea Ratepayers Association. There was another letter on the AIC from Urban Forestry. It's dated April 24th. And we are here in support of that letter, which has condition number 3, which in part says simply no grade changes. This lot is on a very steep rear slope at the ravine area, abutting the proposed addition to this building. We note that the applicant's submission, and as he's mentioned, requires the excavation of an area of the retaining wall. We can look at page 3 of the plan submitted with this application, please. Yes. On page 3, the area for excavation is in the southwest corner of the proposed building where it conflicts with the retaining wall. The area scheduled for excavation is a small area, about 9 square feet, as reported by the arborist, Graves Oak Tree Care, Inc., and was submitted to Urban Forestry for review. Subsequently, Urban Forestry issued the letter on April 24th. We point out that the excavation and removal of soil from the retaining wall inherently involves a grade change, small as it is, and is prohibited by the urban forestry condition. And it's for this reason that we're opposed to this application until this issue is remedied. Thank you.
Members, any questions for the speaker?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just going to ask the presenter to present that report, or it's an email.
April 24th, you said?
Ravine, yeah. So it's an email from April 24th, received May 6th. And if they can just zoom into that report, or it's an email, so it's not that one.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's freezing. Okay, let's give it a second. I just want to show you the 3 conditions, one being the no grade changes. So if committee is inclined to approve the application, you could add these 3 conditions plus the 1 condition in the other report. And so it's all captured under 1.
Yeah.
The email from April 24th.
Have you seen that, sir?
Pardon me?
Have you seen this?
Yeah, there's the letter from the, yes, I have it.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was sent. I understand. Right? Can I reply? Oh.
It's to depute.
I'm just saying, we're not changing the grade. We're just fixing and making a little bit more accessible, if you want. We could build this addition without touching the retaining wall because we're about 4 inches away from it. And I think, and if anybody will see the condition of the retaining wall, and if this person, I'm not sure who it is not obviously an immediate neighbor because he never approached us, but it's actually going to make it better, not less. It's because the condition of the existing wall now, the retaining wall, especially in this area, is quite not the best. And there is no trees there. There is absolutely nothing. It will be taken care of very gently, and one will not even be able to tell. We're not changing the grade. We're not doing anything. There is a flat area behind the house, and it's remaining exactly like this. What maybe the difference will be few holes in the ground, just to put, that's all. But, I mean.
And you're replacing the retaining wall? Because it's.
Replacing?
Are you replacing the retaining wall?
Only a very small portion.
Right, because
Very
it's
small portion.
falling-
I would say about this,
It's just falling apart.
about 6 feet, which is not in good condition.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing.
That's fine.
And there is no trees at all in the area, not even near. Just bushes. And
So just to sum up, sir, so then you'd be fine then if we approve this, adding the conditions that are set out in this email of April 24th.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No, it's not just the loudness of the sound, it's the clearness. I'm sorry, it's me.
Well, I'll speak a little more slowly. Well, all we were trying to say, it was helpful that we've got this email, and it sets out the 3 conditions that they thought should be done, and that included no grading change. So if we approve this, we'd like to make it conditional on the matters in this letter, in this email.
Yeah, we can do that, but the question I'm asking,
Yes?
a retaining wall, which actually the grade is, if you look at the grade, look at the ground, we're not changing the grade. Everything remained the same. The only thing is we're fixing as if it were and making it, yes, we are cutting a little bit more. So one, if you look at the drawing, one be able to go around the addition, you know, when on one side of it to the other side, especially in the winter, it's a little bit easier to clean. But otherwise, no change whatsoever. It's not higher, it's not lower, it's nothing, exactly the same, sort of replacing the wall structure, if you want, with a better one, and also, yes, cutting a little bit into it, but it's not changing. I think it's not, but anyway.
Okay, well, we'll leave it there.
Yeah.
So if you read the condition, sir, it talks about no grade changes are permitted within the tree protection zone.
Yeah.
So where you're planning to repair the retaining wall, does that fall within a tree protection zone?
Well, there are so many circles there.
Yeah, I know, that's the problem, right?
There's a lot of trees there, but none of the trees that are substantial. Everything is, some of them are literally about 2 inches in diameter, which is not exactly a tree.
So they're not protected trees.
But we're actually taking literally every tree, everything that is growing there. We created a circle because myself and also the person that submitted the drawings and the application, we asked the arborist, we met him on site, and we make sure that it is absolutely untouched because it is a quite unique area and one would not like to change anything there. And my belief and with my experience, when this is finished and it's all clean, nobody would even know that there was anything. It's very straightforward in my opinion, but
the question that Mr. Clay put to you was there are no regulated trees. In other words, trees of a certain diameter and size that would be protected by city bylaws. They're all smaller.
very small.
Just what we have in front of on the screens, this is the
It's a lot of circle. It's a lot of trees. Exactly. That's why I was surprised that.
Yeah, right there, here it is.
Okay, all right. Well, I take it that it'll be covered off by that email of April 24th that they covered. Yeah. All right. Time is running out. Let's see. Okay. Members think we'll take it into consideration then. I don't think we have any further questions for this agent. Yeah.
Here, I think this is a good project. I was slightly concerned, just given the slope behind, but Ravine and Natural Features is fine with it with their conditions, and the 2 variances being requested, I think, are minor. And it fits on this existing back flat patio already. So I'm going to move approval of the application, subject to the 3 conditions in the April 24th email, plus the 1 condition in the Ravine Natural Features tree protection report, which is condition 1.
Thank you. Yes. Great. Great. All right. Matter second. All in favor then? Okay, sir. You have your approval, and with that condition about the Ravine and Natural, yeah, that email of April 24th. Yeah, take that to heart.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
So,
You're done.
Wow.
Yes, you can go.
thank you.
All right, sorry, folks, we'll get to just where we are here. 24, all right.
This was exciting. Thank you very much. What can I say?
Just give me a moment to clear here.
Let me just put this.
All right, just as you're tidying up, I'll just say, committee, we're going to go on to look at item 24. The property address is 92 Helena Avenue, and the purpose is to construct a new 1-story ancillary building, a shed, in the rear yard abutting the laneway. Committee has before it, I see minutes from April 23rd meeting, I guess at committee, I'll take those. Copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, covering letter from David Stickney, agent. I don't know, any of the members here recall, we're on this one, April 3rd, 24, anybody remember that item?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
All right.
We will unmute the agent, David Stickney.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, yes. Mr. Stickney, just before you get going, so I just wanted to be a little clear in having read out the purpose. This isn't a laneway suite that's being proposed, it's a shed, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, sorry, go ahead, all right?
Yes, it's a one-story shed, which is subject to different required setbacks
Okay,
and coverage factors than if it were, say, a garage or a laneway suite. There's a laneway suite immediately to the west, which is the top of the page that you'll be looking at. And we deferred the application previously because there was a proposed 6-inch setback, which was going to make a space that was impossible to maintain. So all that the difference from this application is simply to move against the zero setback of the laneway suite to the west, which widens the shed a little bit, which changed the coverage figures. But I think by looking at the laneway suite to the west, you can see the extent to what's allowed to be built as a build zone, or if it were a laneway suite. So the impact of a shed at that particular space is not significant.
so your shed really abuts the laneway suite, right, to the
Correct.
west? Okay, I see, right, okay. Any windows on that shed area facing west?
No.
Okay, all right. Sorry, man. All right, just stand by, sir. I'll just say, members, any questions or comments? No? Okay, all right. All right, let's take this into committee then. Let's see. And it's lot coverage as well. Yes.
Chair,
Yep.
I'm happy to do this one. It's not often we see a revised proposal come back where the actual structure is closer to the lot line than it was when it was first brought forward. But I think in this case, it makes sense. They've eliminated an orphaned piece of property, which just didn't make any sense. So I thought this seemed quite reasonable. It's a modest shed in the backyard, no real impact on anyone. I think it's fairly straightforward. I'm happy to move approval with no conditions.
All right, all in favor of that approval? All right, sir, it's passed. You have that variance. Good luck with the project. Okay. Members, item 25, 898 Broadview Avenue. It's the purpose to construct a new 6-story semi-detached, oh, excuse me, all right, sorry, new people coming in? Okay, all right. Sorry, just to reiterate then, constructing a new 6-story semi-detached apartment building containing 10 residential units with a ground floor integral garage containing 1 parking space, a front basement well, a front 6-story balcony, rear 4th and 5th story balconies, and a rear 6-story rooftop terrace, a green roof for the use of outdoor amenity space. The north portion of the front of the building will be cantilevered over the ground floor entry. Committee has the following, then minutes from May 1st, 2024 public hearing, and ask the applicant what they know. Copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, covering letters from planning consultant, email correspondence from community planning, transportation engineering, Staff reports, again, from Transportation Services and from Urban Forestry. There is opposition and correspondence from Mr. Trong at 896 Broadview Avenue. Correspondence and opposition from Andrea Ray, no address. That was received June 17th, so just a few days ago. All right, that's the...
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we do have the agent here in person. We also have one registered speaker here in person as well.
Well, sir, it's a bit to unpack in just terms of reading that. So can you just, in a concise way, explain your proposal in terms of what'll be built and with what balconies?
Yes. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Paul Demchek with Patori Planning and Management, the land use planner on behalf of the applicant. So we were previously before the committee on May 1st of this year, and at that time there was a request for a deferral to the application to update the zoning notice as well as the list of variances. There was also a request at that time of the committee to consider additional consultations with neighbors. And I note that there are some of the neighbors here. We have had some of those discussions, and I would like to provide a brief update on our application and provide the committee in terms of response to how we've obviously addressed some of these items. So the proposed development comprises of the construction of a 6-story apartment development of the site, replacing the existing 2-story semi-detached building on the property. The building features a ground floor live-work unit, as well as including 10 residential units above grade, which include all accessible units, and all units are proposed to be rental in tenure. Indoor amenity space and bicycle parking areas are located below grade, as well as an internal waste and garbage loading area is located at the rear of the building, with internal access provided from the rear laneway. A green roof and amenity area is also located on the rooftop of the building. So the proposed building provides for an appropriate transition from obviously the low-rise residential dwellings to the west of the subject site. It includes a build form that meets the intent of the policies and mid-rise guidelines of the City of Toronto. It implements the secondary plan for the Broadview, It implements the Broadview secondary plan, which was never implemented via the applicable zoning bylaw in terms of all the performance standards that were noted within that secondary plan, including the height, as well as obviously the floor space index requirements. Additional privacy glazing is obviously considered for all the balconies of the development, both at the rear and front, to mitigate privacy and overlook impacts. I will note as well, since we last presented to the committee, the applicant has hired a translator who I will note is available via phone if needed for the neighbor today. And further, we have had additional correspondence as well as in-person meetings with a number of the neighbors leading up to this hearing date. I would note that some of these discussions have included offers to obviously rectify the adjacent legal non-conforming zoning that was noted in the zoning notice as one of the notes for the existing semi-detached dwelling. That application was actually submitted to the City of Toronto on Monday. So that has been provided. We've also offered for reciprocal underpinning agreements with the neighbor. I know that is still in the works. We also offered, the client specifically has offered additional construction mitigation measures throughout the duration of the process, as well as any opportunities to further mitigate the design and privacy impacts in discussion with the neighbor. I know some of that is obviously going to be nuanced in terms of the details of the project on a go-forward basis and is not necessarily pertinent to the foretest under the Planning Act, but I did want to provide that additional nuance for the benefit of the committee. I know I'm limited in time, but just in terms of obviously the number of the variances, we have provided a planning justification report obviously in support of the application. We have obviously notes from staff not taking any opposition obviously to our specific application. In particular, I do want to make a couple of comments. The application, as I just previously mentioned, it does meet obviously what was intended in the Broadview secondary plan. Further, it meets what was recently approved and intended by council as part of the major streets work, as part of the EHUN work across the City of Toronto. This is a built form and rental tenureship. As I mentioned, it's designed with 10 residential rental units. It meets the accessibility requirements for CMHC in terms of their loan program. And these are intended to be rental and tenure for obviously a significant period of time through that loan program. I've worked on a number of these obviously across the city. We recently did one on 2283 Dundas Street West before this committee fall of last year, which is a very similar built form and typology that the committee may be aware of. I know I'm limited on time, so I'll perhaps wrap it up, but I'm before the committee and happy to assist and answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions?
So a quick question, Chair. So this is currently a semi, right?
Yes, that's
And
correct.
your proposal would be to cleave off this portion and then rebuild set back from the property line?
So the party wall, it would still be connected. The party wall would still have to be intact, and similar to, I would say similar to like many Main Street typologies, albeit just in a semi-detached form, right? We see this often on obviously other Main Street mixed-use buildings that we work on. It's just a semi-detached dwelling and typology in this instance. But no, that party wall will stay. The issue is the way that the zoning bylaw, and sorry, I'm being maybe presumptive, but the issue is in terms of a zoning requirement, the way that the zoning bylaw is written, it's 2 semi-detached units is what is required. And because we're removing that semi-detached unit, there's only 1 remaining, and therefore it's a legal non-conforming use on the 1/2 of obviously the subject property.
You'll still be adjoined to the next door neighbor.
Absolutely, yes.
Through you, Mr. Chair, maybe we'll hear from the resident at 896 Broadview that's
sure.
here in person? Okay,
Sure.
so we'll call them up now?
Yeah, let's ask you to take a seat there, sir, and we'll hear others. Good.
Sorry. So I'm here just representing the landlord as well for 896, the adjoined party, for the applicant of 898. So I think some concerns, that
Your name and address, please.
So my name is Judy. I'm representing Tai Lu Trong at 89, Judy Young. Representing address 896 Broadview Avenue, Toronto, Ontario, M4K2R1. So we did connect with the party next door, and I think we were just here today just to kind of address the same kind of concerns we had. Primarily the height of the building, we were concerned about the possibility of a collapse. It's the structure being so high at 6 stories. Possibility of when the snow hits during the winter times, it may obviously fall, or even during, if there's underpinning, the excavating may disrupt the next door, us being attached directly. Also, that 45-degree angular plan, that one kind of did not meet, we felt didn't meet the urban design guidelines. Also, the underpinning, that wasn't fully, that's still in discussion. But altogether, those were some of the concerns that we mainly had for the build of this property. And sorry, the one more thing, the streetscape aesthetically didn't look appealing, where we understand a few doors down at 882, the lot is much bigger, and it is a detached, but it's connected to a much smaller semi-detached. So we had just going along Broadview, it didn't look appealing, I guess.
I'm not sure if I understood it correctly. Are you on the other side of the party wall? Is that?
Yes.
Yes, okay, right. Okay. Members, any comments, any questions, or any questions of the speaker? No? All right, Miss, thank you. Further speaker? Yes?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, we can go back to the agent on that.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the comments from the neighbor. As was noted, we have met with the neighbor and we did hear a number of those concerns originally, and I'll respond to just briefly a number of them. We heard concerns and comments obviously about snow load, about structure. Obviously those are building code issues, and obviously we'll ensure through our structural engineer that the building obviously performs safely. There's parapets that will be obviously located on the rooftop to assist obviously with snow, with obviously, trying to mitigate some of those concerns. As it relates to obviously a number of, I'll maybe combine some of the comments, as it relates to concerns we heard about the height, about the angular plane, as I mentioned, those comments, and obviously how we're responding to those comments, we are implementing what's intended as part of the EHON Major Streets work. We're implementing the Broadview secondary plan via this proposal. Albeit, obviously, it is changing the streetscape. It is only half of the semi that we're obviously changing. This is a street, as I've outlined in my plan justification report, that's going through, even in the immediate context, a significant number of changes, and including buildings with this typology, whether it's 6 stories, a few doors down, up to 23 stories, just a block to the north. And obviously, we're trying to develop a building within, in my opinion, what is obviously the appropriate and planned context for Broadview.
Thank you. I'm just taking a quick look. So there was a previous, there was a staff report when it was before committee earlier, and then just wanted to see what they had said.
Chair, while you're doing that, might I ask a question?
Please, yes, please.
Thank you for all that stuff. There's a couple things. The EHON, the Avenue strategy, those things are in process, right? So they're not here quite yet. I think everyone knows what the intent is going to be. But you specifically mentioned the Broadview Ave urban design guidelines, and maybe you could just share with us how this fits in with that, exactly what that is and how this fits in with that.
Sure. So as part of the Broadview secondary plan that was approved for this area, that basically was intended to permit up to 6 stories for in building heights for this section of Broadview. We're obviously proposing a 6-story building. That secondary plan, and obviously being implemented, as you correctly noted, as part of the EHON Major Streets work, like floor space index requirements are being removed, right? Those kinds of components, as well as removing the angular plane requirements and step backs that we're seeing obviously both from the secondary plan policies, but also as part of the draft performance standards for mid-rise buildings across the City of Toronto. Obviously looking at significantly reducing some of those performance standards, which is being implemented as part of this design. And I know we've shown that drawing specifically on one of our section drawings in both the red and blue lines in terms of how we are, at least in my opinion, meeting the intent of what those requirements are.
Yeah, I'll just make a comment, maybe you can respond. My only observation on this one is that this is a little bit different in that it's semi, right? I mean, it's not a detached property, it's not a whole property. Your proposal is basically building a fairly large structure right next to a normal size attached house. I don't know.
Through you, Mr. Chair, you're absolutely correct. This is identical. I think I made the comment earlier. This is identical to an application we worked on late last year at 2283 Dundas Street West. It was half of a semi-detached dwelling, and as part of redeveloping half that semi-detached dwelling, I was the planner on the file. It was the same architect, different client, but it was a 6-story typology that was attached via the party wall to that. We actually in that instance, we kept part of the front facade. Obviously, this is more of a complete redevelopment with new underpinning, new basement, et cetera. But it is part of the changing streetscape we're seeing across the city as part of some of these major streets, including this in this instance. And it's very different from what you see today.
If I could just weigh in just for the second. So looking at this earlier planning report, and one concern really was for the other side of the wall, and you're saying, they're saying when this when your project is built, the semi will be treated as a detached house, and planning suggested that you should assist the adjoining neighbor to get whatever planning relief that they needed, to get a minor variance if they needed. Is that happening? Is that the case?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Last week, we submitted, through the neighbor who's in attendance today, we submitted a draft of that minor variance application. It was signed over the weekend, I believe, and we submitted that on Monday to the city. So that now is in process, and my client is going to be paying for that application on the neighbor's behalf.
Well, that sounds good. That earlier report said they had no objections to proposed variances, but essentially they wanted to deal with the other half, and they said, all right, and that's being done. Good. That's all I had. Members, any other questions for the agent here? No? All right. I think we can take it into committee, guys, and let me just get back to that. All right. Too many. And maybe just a quick question, just trying to get an idea. How many meters from this property to the subway, Broadview subway station?
It's exactly 400 meters.
400 meters. All right, okay. Thank you. Members, anyone wish to take the lead on this? It's interesting. I don't think I've seen something like this before. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, this is obviously an aggressive application, and I was surprised how few and how relatively small the variances were, given the size of the building, and also given like the evolving policy context in regard to the new major streets buildings that are coming down. I think the FSI is very high, but there's no length, there's no depth, there's no side yard setback. Like I think that represents that this area is seen as a place where relatively intense redevelopment can happen. And this stretch of Broadview is really diverse with a very, very broad range of buildings, from very high to very small. And yeah, I think the 45-degree angular planes is a slight issue, but again, like only a relatively small portion of the building is penetrating that. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised looking at this, and it's something I can fully support.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Oh, I'm sorry.
Seeing if my colleagues had anything they wanted to add.
8 variances here, eh? Let's see, let's go through them.
I guess my feeling is it might be a bit premature given the evolving context where not all of those guidelines have been accepted by the city, and it could be jumping the gun a little bit. Given, I mean, it's huge. It looks big compared to its immediate neighbors. It is going to cause some shadowing on the neighbors to the back, and it doesn't meet the angular planes. I'm not sure that I am persuaded that it fits in the context, but that's my initial thought.
I'm struggling with this one, to be quite honest with you. And benefit from our discussion on this one. I desperately want to support this one. What's niggling in my mind is if it was a detached single property, I probably have no difficulty with it. I would agree that its proximity, particularly proximity to the subway station, and the redevelopment that's going on along Broadview, I think the agent's right. I think it is going to change. The difficulty I have is the fact that it's attached to a semi. And I always, in my deliberations on these things, when there is a fairly significant proposal for a semi-detached dwelling and the adjacent semi has serious problems with it, I think that's valid. And you know, this new structure desperately needed. Don't disagree with you. But it is going to tower over the adjacent semi. And I think the folks who represented their interests here today have made that point. They talked about construction impacts, but there's going to be overlook, there's going to be privacy, there's going to, you've got a fairly significant, impact on the view shed, on the streetscape. That's why I was asking you about the design guidelines. I'll admit, I'm kind of on the fence on this one. I'm not exactly too sure. And, maybe this is the kind of development or application that would be better served by being heard at TLAB, where opportunities for a more fulsome discussion on it and its relationship to the rezoning, its relationship to the avenue study, EHAN, and the Broadview design guidelines. It just seems to me that the context for this one as being juxtaposed against a existing two-story semi-detached, I'm struggling with it, quite honest, I'll reiterate, I want to support it.
Do members know, in terms of the street, whether Broadview Avenue is one of the streets where City Council recently talked about allowing 6-story as of right amongst certain major roads in the city? Is Broadview Avenue one of those? I don't know.
I'm sure it is. I don't disagree with that.
There you go. All right.
That's the difficulty I'm having with this one, isn't that?
I hear what you're saying. Probably you're saying really a more fulsome look might have to be done.
I don't know. I don't usually struggle with these ones, but I am with this one.
I think the only thing I'd add is that I was surprised that planning didn't speak in opposition to it. So I think planning is tacitly in support.
And their only concern was
Was addressing the semi.
Yeah.
Which I think it's admirable that the applicant has obviously taken measures to do that, right? That's part of it. Okay. But I agree, Larry, this isn't an easy one.
Yeah, again, if it, just speculating, if it did go to TLAB, I wonder what the outcome would be. In fact, maybe some of those planning studies might progress a little bit along the way to provide more guidance to them and us about what to do with these ones. Like I say, I think this area is ripe for this kind of additional rental accommodation. It's a number of units, it makes sense, it's proximity. But I do think that in an area where there are semi-detached homes and existing people who are living along those, and they are obviously very concerned about this one.
Just one question to the agent then.
Are we out of committee then, Chair?
Oh, I guess we are. I guess that we are out of committee for a moment. An example you spoke on Dundas that you'd done recently. Was that a similar situation? In other words, was there a semi then remaining on the other side?
That's, through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. It was 2283 Dundas. It was half of a 2-story semi-detached dwelling.
Yeah.
It was an identical typology to what is before the committee today. And this same committee approved, obviously not identical variances, but I would obviously characterize as similar built form and technical variances to the bylaw in that instance to permit that typology. As was noted, this is a highly needed tenure and built form that's needed across the city. It's, as was noted, it's a policy context that is constantly changing. This property, it's permitted for apartment building uses in the CR zone, and we're obviously implementing that apartment building use. As was noted, staff do not have any concerns with the application. I'll go so far as to say they were in general support of what we are proposing from a built form perspective.
I'm a little disappointed in planning staff on this one because I think I would have loved to have seen a report and an analysis from a planner.
Sorry, what's the address you're referring to on Dundas?
2283 Dundas Street West. It's just
BLOOR,
Just south of BLOOR, correct?
next to the gym?
Yes, yes.
All right.
Yeah, and the committee, the same committee, albeit perhaps a few different members, did approve that, that file.
Thanks very much, and we'll take it back into committee. Sorry.
Thank you, members.
There, but it was good to know, yeah. Would be to support the application, but members will have to decide, yeah. Lots happening, certainly, in the city and in the province in terms of, yeah.
I do recall, I think I was on that panel when that application came forward. I do recall the debate and the discussion. It's actually a very similar, I think the agent's right, it's a very similar circumstance.
I think part of the challenge with this is that this is where, like, this is the first step of a real change across the city, right? In terms of significant changes in built form. And I think we're going to start seeing this more and more. And the fact that it's kind of the first run now after these evolved policies, it's a bit jarring to look at.
I think that's a good comment, yeah, you're right.
And I think being on that cusp is, it makes it a bit more challenging.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with Peter. You're absolutely right. This is the way things are going. And, you know, on these particular streets, these large avenues that are proximate to a lot of things, including transit, but also a major thoroughfare, in this case Danforth, you know, where people are going to be utilizing those amenities. It's almost, frankly, you know, for those people who do reside on these streets, it's almost, you know, the expectation is that things are in fact going to change.
Right, yeah.
So I think I might be coming around to the application. I would like to see some consideration given to the adjacent semi, and I don't know what that would be, but it sounds like the agent's prepared to do what needs to be done to satisfy any of those outstanding concerns with respect to construction and other related impacts. Is there screening on the upper stories for the balconies?
It's a good thought.
The agent said that there was.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, the agent said there was.
I don't know if I can speak, but yes, through you, Mr. Chair, there
We're
will
out
be.
of committee, Chair. Okay.
Got that. Please go ahead.
Yes, please.
My apologies. Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, there will be screening frosted glass for all the balconies to mitigate privacy and overlook impacts, as well as on the rooftop, there's going to be landscaping screening on the parapet walls.
Okay. How far back do you extend into the rear yard for the new construction?
We have a 7.5 meter rear yard setback. So it is quite significant from obviously the existing context and the existing semi-detached dwelling. Just don't have the metric.
But I guess that this proposal is north of the existing semi, right? So you guys are north of the residents that are concerned, so it won't be as dramatic an impact on sunlight.
That's correct.
Okay, well, this has been a really good, we're back in committee, Chair?
Yes, okay, yeah, great.
It's been a helpful discussion for me anyways. I appreciate, you know, members' input on this one. I think Chair, I'm coming around to Peter's view on this one.
Okay. Peter, would you like to lead the way then?
Yeah, let me, I'm, for the reasons I said before, I'd like to make a motion for approval of the application. And that's subject to the community planning report, transportation report, urban forestry and development engineering. And I think that we should just put in as a separate condition that the balconies be constructed with frosted glass, all balconies.
Is there a seconder for that motion, please? Yes, Mr. Clay, all right, seconds. All right, all in favor, subject to those conditions? Okay, we have a mixed vote, Mr. Sorry. Sorry, Mr.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Member Wilkin, you've dissented?
I couldn't remember his last name, yeah, dissented,
Okay.
all right. But that's an approval, sir, one dissent, so go with that, and good that you're assisting the neighbor in terms of the variance that they'll need to bring themselves into conformity, and yeah, let's, as has been expressed, yeah, we're starting to see new forms of development on, especially on major streets.
Be nice to see, you know, if your client would buy out both sides and then just put something up on the entire lot.
I had those discussions with the neighbors, and that offer's not off the table.
Good luck.
Good luck with the construction. Having lived for many, many years in a large semi in the annex area at the time, is that, you know, these things can lead to the old plaster and lathing shifting, and sometimes a hole right through to the adjoining property. But in any event, those are building matters. Good luck with you. All right. Folks, we have one more on this agenda, and then we can discuss about the remainder segment. So item 26 is 10 Parkview Hill Crescent. Guess it's in the beaches area, 10 Parkview Crescent, and let me just get to that. State its purpose and what we've got. Parkview Hill, they want to alter the existing one-story detached dwelling by constructing a new one-story addition along the north and east portion of the dwelling, and a rear covered ground level deck, I see, abutting White Pine Avenue. Also to reconstruct the front porch and stairs. The existing rear decks will be demolished. So we've got a one-story addition and then some decking, all right. And the committee has the following. We have a plan of survey, a site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have 3 photographs of trees. We have a cover letter from Trevor Gain as agent. And we have some comments simply from Urban Forestry, and yes, I noticed there, Urban Forestry is asking for a condition on this one if it.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have Trevor Gain online.
Great.
No registered speakers for this item.
No
We'll
registered
unmute Trevor.
speakers. Thank you. Okay. Hello, Trevor, are you there?
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Trevor Gain. I'm the agent here on this application.
Yes, thank you, and I'm just.
Chair, I don't need a presentation. I don't know what my colleagues do.
All right, I see there are 7 variances, but fine. All right, sir, just stand by. I don't think you'll need to make a presentation then. Let's take this into committee. Members? Any views or any concerns at this point?
Chair, oh, sorry, Doug, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say I was generally supportive of this application. The need for the one-story appears related to the needs of the homeowner, but being that it's one story and the numerical variances apart from the length are not very significant and generally keep the existing form, I don't think there'd be a lot of impact on the neighbors, and I think that's why we haven't heard any opposition. So I believe the variance is minor, so I would, unless anyone has anything to add, I would move to approve with urban forestry condition 2.
I'll second that, and I think it's just, the design is actually commendable in part because it's designed to specifically save that tree, right? So I thought that was a good feature of this application.
Good. All right, all those in favor? None? All right, and that passes unanimously, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer. It brings us to the end of that segment. Perhaps we can discuss with staff and members. Then there's a one final.
Chair, I think we go to number 28. 27's postponed, and we can go to 28.
Yes.
Prepared to just continue? That's all I meant. Did you want to break?
Of course. Well, item 27 has been postponed,
Right.
3293 Dundas Street West.
Yes,
We'll move on to item number 28 because the agent's here in person.
Okay.
And then we'll take a break at that time and proceed with the next group of applications.
Okay, that sounds livable. 28 can take the place of 27.
Yep.
So 18 MACLEAN Avenue. Okay. Okay. Okay, sorry. Item 2818 McLean Avenue, here's the purpose: to construct a new 2.5-story semi-detached duplex with a front covered porch, a front second-story terrace, a rear integral 2-car garage with south side entrance, a rear first-floor rooftop terrace with stairs over the garage, a rear second-story rooftop deck on the roof of the first story below, a south side entrance with deck with stairs, and a south side basement walkout. Committee has the following: plan a survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 1 photograph of the property, correspondence from TRCA, private arborist report, their presentation materials from Leo Mastrandria as agent, comments. We have staff reports from tree protection, and we have a community planning report. Support, there are 8 form letters in support signed by owners on various streets, mostly McLean and Hubbard Boulevard. In opposition, there is correspondence from a Patrick McKeever at 20 McLean Avenue. There's correspondence in opposition from that same gentleman and Pani Witanamani at 20 McLean Avenue. Requesting to withdraw their support letter. So those persons are opposed. And finally, there's a 24 signature petition in opposition, signed by owners or occupants of various addresses on McLean Avenue, also addresses on Selwood Avenue, and also addresses on Hubbard Boulevard. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do have Leo Mastranderia here as agent in person, and we do have 2 registered speakers online. So we'll hear from the agent and then move to the online speakers.
Thank you. Be helpful, yes.
Hello? Yes, my name is Leo Mastranderia. I'm the agent for the owners at 18 McLean. There was an agreement with the neighbor to our north, number 20, to basically withdraw his petition. There's an agreement between the owners. He's here in the building, and he can speak to that. So in response to the design, so the existing house is basically, if you could pull up my side elevation on A9, please. And essentially, when we were designing this house, we were trying to keep the neighbors all in mind so that they didn't lose their existing view that they had. The reason why we have some of the variances is, first, it's on a corner facing the lake, and secondly, it's due to the corner rounding of the lot and the garage that's facing the lake. So essentially, that garage level is in line with the ground floor level. So it does not, if you could pull up my photograph of the front elevation, page number 1 of the view of the existing house. So basically, what you see today is basically, no, that's the neighbor's, page number 1 of my support package of the photos that I showed. Yeah. So essentially that's it today. So we were keeping that rear addition as intact, and we were gonna put the garage coming from that over basically into the ground that's existing there now. And so above ground in the rear from the neighbor at number 20 is basically coming up about 16 inches with a glass railing. So based on our discussions, they're gonna withdraw their petition. We have support from planning, and we accept their conditions to plant a tree. I've already agreed to that. TRCA has no concerns. Forestry has no concerns. And I believe, although there's a lot of variances, they're all minor in nature, and they do meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Thanks, Leo. Sorry, can I just clarify? I didn't quite catch. So we've got a big petition of people who don't like it. Is that been removed? Or is that, so I'm just trying to figure out
Yes,
who's on
so-
side and who's not on side.
Okay, so basically, we had a meeting late Monday, and we invited the whole neighborhood, and everyone didn't have a problem with our design once they understood what we're actually doing.
Right.
The neighbor who started the petition is the neighbor to our north, who is here today, and he's going to,
So that was the petition in opposition?
correct, the
Okay.
whole petition opposition is gonna be removed.
Oh, okay, that's helpful. That's what I wanted to clarify. Okay, so,
Because there was an agreement by the owners.
okay. Thank you.
Just wanted to ask you about your project there. So it's a semi-detached the duplex, covered, so you'll have 2 units in that
Yes.
semi-duplex, 2 units there, all right, okay. And I know there were concerns about view of the lake and environs, and that was a concern, but you're suggesting those kinds of concerns at least have been dealt with?
Correct. When we were in design, we were trying to keep that view intact. So basically, the only obstruction is basically about 18 inches over the garage, because the garage is at the ground floor level, and it's kind of dug into near the sidewalk.
And you're keeping the glass partition?
Yeah, it's all
You can
glass.
see through it, it's not gonna be
Exactly.
frosted or
And we're
opaque
not
or
putting a
anything?
fence as well, yes.
Okay.
What is the existing depth with the current setup right now?
The existing, there's a photo, that was page number 1.
Just in relation to the 21 meters that it's going to be if this is approved.
Yeah, it's just, that's existing there. So that back addition is the same addition we have over our man door, and our garage is coming from that.
It's not going any further?
So just to clarify, Leo, Doug's asking, like, what's the existing depth right now?
Oh, the existing depth of the house, 14.97 meters.
Okay,
Which
and you're going to 21?
only because, only the garage is.
Right, fair enough.
Yes,
Fair, I think that's what Doug was asking.
correct, sorry, yes. So the garage is what's pushing us over, but because it's all basically below ground, I thought it was reasonably designed.
All right, thank you, sir. Madam Secretary, you have one speaker, is that right?
Through you, Mr. Chair, let's hear from
Yes.
the owners at number 20. Person, if they could just come up to one of the microphones, turn it on, and then state your first and last name, and,
Will do. Which mic? This one?
yep, as long as the red light is on.
Patrick McKeever, number 20, right next door, same building. And we reached an agreement last evening, as they said, so we've withdrawn our petition.
Fair enough. So the agreement is with you or with everybody?
Well, I represented kind of the neighborhood. So
Okay.
you see the signatures.
Yeah.
So
So they've all withdrawn their concern?
I met with them all. So I just want to thank them all for their support. It's a great community.
And so there are a number of variances before committee, sir, and you're not opposed to those variances.
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Penny.
Okay, then we'll go to our registered speakers then. We're going to unmute Depew. Yeah, Patrice, have you been unmuted?
I'm Patrice Dupuis, living at 25 Selwood. And I met with Patrick this morning, and we met also with the owners on Monday night. And based on what we saw on Monday, and talking to Patrick, we also don't have any concerns. So we did sign a petition, and we are okay with it.
All right, thank you. Is there further?
Okay, and
Yeah. That's what I said.
Okay, thank you. And you're also speaking on behalf of Helen Darwin, right?
Yes.
Helen's here, yeah, if you want to ask anything.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Well, I'm just wondering, can we guarantee they're just going to keep the garage at that height? Is that a definite?
And so that's something that the agent will speak to?
Okay.
Do you have any other concerns you want to raise or questions?
No. No.
Okay. See no questions, so we'll move on to Christine and Martin Tully.
Hello?
Hi.
Well, we're also neighbors at 23 Selwood, and Pat McIver has spoken with us about the agreement, and we're fine with that too, as long as it's written into the judgment that the garage won't be any higher than discussed. I think it was 7 foot 6 inches, if I recall, and that's it.
Did you already discuss the tree?
Do you have a concern with the tree that you want to raise?
Is there a tree on the property that we should be concerned about?
Get the agent to speak to any tree matters. Are there any other concerns you wish to raise?
No, it was just that there was a new tree planted on that property. And I was just concerned that the construction doesn't encroach on it.
Okay, we'll get the agent to speak to that. Is that all that you needed to raise?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for this speaker? No? Okay, sorry, and we did have 103A MACLEAN Avenue registered, but they're no longer in the meeting, so we can go back to the agent.
So we did submit an application to the forestry department, so we will have to deal with the forestry department in regards to any trees. We are also agreed to the planning report to add an additional tree. I'm not sure how that tree will survive up there, but nevertheless, make it a condition that we get a forestry approval for any trees. And as far as everyone has concerns that we may raise this deck. So we could make it a condition that the top of the garage will remain as drawing A1, drawing A9. But I don't want to be tied to the elevation only because with our agreement that we had with the neighbors, there's some additions that we're gonna change that side elevation up a little bit. So because the concern is mainly the top of that garage, you just make it a condition that the top of that garage will remain as per drawing A9 only, and not tie us to the complete site plan and elevation, because like I said, the agreement was to do some other things that do not require variances, but if you tie us to it, it'll be difficult to get those approved.
I know that there are urban forestry conditions 1 and 2. So you probably have to make some applications to trim or injure
Correct.
public tree and a private tree. Yeah, sorry.
When we started the application, there was no tree, but now there is, so we will deal with the necessary steps to try to keep it or to work with forestry to figure whatever we need to do.
All right. Thank you. I jumped in there. Members, any further questions that we can put to the agent? No? All right. Okay, well, all right, let's take it into committee. There was significant opposition in terms of getting to today in terms of the material that we read, but you know, much of that appears to have been satisfied. We have 10 variances before us. Check my notes. Members, yeah, any discussion, please? Yeah.
I'll start, Chair. Others may want to chip in. given that the neighbors appear to be satisfied, I think that goes a long way to, generate support for this application. This is a pretty prestige lot, right? I mean, this is a corner lot that overlooks the beaches and a parkland. Man, it's, I can see why people along this stretch would like to improve their homes, and you're turning this into a duplex, which I think is a good thing as well. I think the addition itself on the back is relatively modest. The deck, I think you've satisfied neighborhood concerns about, obstructing views, and I think that goes a long way. As I said, to get the support. I think the variances, even though there are many, and there is the length, but it's an unusual lot. It's a corner lot, so it's not surprising that we're seeing the length. And the length is tied primarily to the garage and the deck above. So I don't think it's a significant obstruction to the adjacent and surrounding neighbors. Planning is supportive of it. There's been discussions with planning, so I think that goes a long way. As I say, this is a pretty sweet lot, and some improvements to it make some sense. So I think it's supportable. I'm happy to move approval of this application, subject to planning conditions and forestry condition 1 and 2.
Larry, would you take a friendly amendment? Just, I know the neighbors were mostly concerned about the garage height, if we could.
Oh, fair enough. Thank you, Peter, for reminding me, yeah. Well, I don't know what the wording should be. We tie it to the garage height as illustrated in the.
Is it A9?
A9?
A9.
Sorry, if I may.
Sorry, we can.
Yeah, so A9, so tied to the height as indicated on drawing A9.
Yes.
Okay, but we won't tie it to plans.
Right.
To allow some flexibility for
Elevation
design.
plans or site plans, yeah.
Okay. Does that work? Okay.
I'll second that too.
All right, all in favor of that, of the decisions? All right. Thank you. It is approved. Thank you. Members and staff, we just see if you, just canvassing it, do you feel you want to proceed, or do you think we need like a 10 or 15-minute break to take?
For you, Mr. Chair, we could probably do about 10 minutes, and then we can proceed with items 29 to 34.
All right, we're going to adjourn for 10 minutes. We'll be back, and the final segment will be done. Good. Okay.
Off your microphones
Yes,
and
thank you.
your videos.
Okay. Okay. We have, that was, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Sorry, guys, just so you know, if we go past 6 o'clock today,
Yes?
they have some festivity that's going on downstairs with a live band, so we may hear a little bit of some disruption. But it seems that only item number 29 has registered speakers. All the other items are just agent.
Oh, very good. So,
Are there snacks at the event?
pizza? Right, all right. Okay, so back to 29, all right. Okay.
Especially when you can compare it to like other cities, right? Like, especially like European or other parts of the world that have undergone urbanization.
When I was looking at that one, we were talking, I guess it was maybe 150 years ago. Like, I think people were still primarily hunting for their own food, like within the boundaries of, like, not, like, you know, like the countryside over where Athens is. You know, they were slowly depopulating the grouse or something like that. It's like, what?
I always find it a little weird when Peter Milchen's here. I was on the municipal affairs side, but he was the minister of housing for a while. So it's kind of like, I feel like, hello, minister. You gotta feel like you gotta.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, he's a nice guy. I really liked him. He's a great guy to work with. But it's weird seeing your former minister be in front of you asking for your approval.
Have the tables adjourned.
Yeah, that's right. Remember that time you were a prick?
I was on the landlord tenant board for 2 years.
Oh, yeah. You poor soul.
I know, that's why I cut out of there after 2 years. I was
It's
so
hard.
exhausting.
It's hard. Well, first of all, were you there when they were grossly understaffed?
I was supposed to be part of the solution to fill that, but I was sort of like the first wave,
Right.
where they just hired a handful.
Right.
And then you had, I don't know, like 60 hearings a block 3 times a week. And then anytime you adjourn something, they put it back on your schedule for a day you're supposed to be writing decisions. So it was basically just did 7 days a week of work for 2 years. And then,
Awful.
and then pulled the plug.
Is it like, how long ago was that when you left? Have you heard? Have they stabilized? Have they actually, are they starting to
They've
get?
added a lot more adjudicators. They hired maybe like 30 or 40 more, which is a lot. But they're still behind.
The backlog was brutal, huh?
Yeah, when I left, I think I was about on average, except for really easy things, maybe like 2 to 3 months to get a decision out. And I thought I was performing terribly. I thought like this is unacceptable.
You're probably way ahead of everybody else.
And then so I said, oh, I'm not going to renew. And they said, no, don't. Why? And I said, oh, I just feel terrible. Like people waiting 2, 3 months to find out. Oh, some of your people are, 6 months, 8 months, a year. But I was going to say that I always found it strange when, like for certain types of evictions for like impairments in safety or illegal acts, like the police would appear before you and sometimes they have a relative just be talking about important stuff. I'm sorry, I don't want to hear that. Let's move on, or you're directing all these people around, and I found it very strange to be in that role. It used to be more deferential. In that role, you have to.
And very emotional too. I mean, these,
Was it soul crushing?
yeah, it gotta be.
Was it hard to do it?
I actually find this more difficult. It's so unfamiliar to me. But it was it was soul crushing only to the extent like sometimes it's really clear like it's not working. It has to end. But there's in like the borderline or like if someone is behaving badly, you don't feel that on me about it. But then when it's just like, because it was all like the COVID years and all kinds of things happened and people are in that situation and like there's nobody is winning.
Were you getting a lot of renovation stuff?
Yeah, that seems to have been what I can tell is I still do work in that area. And there's a lot. Seems like a lot.
I mean, we get some of that here. Like we've had clients here where, tenants have come before us and basically made the point that the renovations are just, I have to leave and I'll never be able to afford to come back. Percentage time.
What is my notes here? That's right.
Okay, are we ready to go?
Okay, so we need,
Because if you're double, then this should. It's all proportional. It shouldn't be 20. So what do you have with 4%? Just double.
Okay, members, if you can turn on your videos and microphones. We can proceed with item number 29.
yes, thank you. Let's get back to that. sorry. All right, set to proceed, everybody? Okay. All right, we're moving to item 29 on our agenda. The address is 401 Dundas Street East. Here's the purpose: to alter the development standards as approved under site-specific zoning bylaw 770 in 2023 for a new 14-story mixed-use building by increasing the gross floor area and the building height. Committee has before it plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 8 photographs of the subject property, a covering letter from Michael Goldberg as agent, presentation materials from Ms. Ocean as agent, shadow study, revised public hearing notice, copy of the site-specific bylaw, email correspondence from Michael Goldberg as agent. Commenting agents, we have a heritage planning submission. In support, we have correspondence from Peter Dietz, address not provided. Interest or concern, we have just a comment, I guess, Carol Zulalian at St. Jude Community Homes. There is opposition, correspondence in opposition from James McKee, Rick Matthews, Tanya English, and Adam Pounder on behalf of the Cabbagetown South Residents Association. That was received June 14th.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online as well as one registered speaker from St.
Yes.
Jude Community Homes. At this time, we'll unmute the agent, Michael Goldberg.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Michael Goldberg.
Yes.
I'm a principal at Goldberg Group. If you'd like me to make a presentation, I'd be happy to do so.
I think I'll ask you to, because I think there's one speaker online, perhaps a concise version of your project. I noted just in the intro there, we have getting an increase in GFA and in building height, so perhaps you could address those.
Yes, this is a proposal that started in 2020, and it went through a rezoning process that culminated in a city council approval for a 10-story building in July of 2023. And since that time, there has been a moderate, I guess, rethink of the application, not only because of City Council's housing pledge to bring on more housing in important areas, particularly in the downtown, but there's also been a rethink of the pro forma that very much predated the 2020 initiation of this application. And the economics of that project, while it worked at that time, no longer worked in additional height and density to bring on these housing units, was really initiated and became necessary. So we engaged in conversations with Heritage Planning because of the Heritage Conservation District, with City Planning, and I see that you do have an email from Tiffany Lai from Community Planning. We, just so members of the committee know, during the rezoning process, there was a working committee, and Mr. Peter Dietz, who sent you a positive email, was on that working committee. And as we were contemplating going back to committee for the additional height and density, we reconvened a meeting with the working committee. Mr. Dietz was in attendance of that meeting. It happened on January 17th. And in fact, members of the Cabbagetown South Residents Association were invited to that meeting. To our knowledge, they did not attend that meeting. So both at the rezoning stage, members of the committee, there wasn't an individual that objected. No one objected to the 10-story rezoning, and no individual is objecting, to my understanding, at this meeting here today, or has written into you. In terms of the St. Jude's Community Homes matter, this is a very discrete matter that was initiated by St. Jude's Homes. We have responded to them through Ornella Rikiki of the ownership of this proposal, and we'll continue to have conversations. But they are an adjacent developer of some community-related housing to the west of us. They have an issue with Toronto Hydro, and this application, having gone through the whole process, including a site plan process, has not been confronted with the same issue with Toronto Hydro. So all I'm going to say about the issues with the St. Jude's Community Homes people is this is an issue that has not been raised by any public authority. It's been raised by them. It's a cost-sharing matter that they are raising, and we'll continue to work with them. We'd happy to do so, although if it relates to us, we will participate. If it doesn't relate to us, then it's a private matter between them and Toronto Hydro. So I think it's really outside the scope of these variances that are being requested. It has nothing to do with these variances being requested, and this matter will have to be resolved between the St. Jude's Community Homes, ourselves, and Toronto Hydro. So in terms of the variances before you, we are proposing, as the community has probably seen in many applications of many types of buildings throughout Toronto, we are adding the 4 stories. All the good work that was done in creating the base building, the public realm, the loading, the access to the rear off of Coatsworth Street remains unaltered by this application. Basically, what's happening is an additional 4 floors is being added to the project to allow this project to proceed, and it's gone through a complete planning review by community planning, heritage planning, and so on. So I'm not sure I have much more. Many of the variances are somewhat technical in nature, but they are all stemming from the fact that there's an additional height and density. And you can see on the screen here what was before and what is before you now. The next slide, if the person controlling the screen can turn to the next slide, are shadow drawings. And basically what it shows is that there is a very moderate shadow increase. But the important thing is that the shadows move quickly through the landscape as the day advances, and on any one spot, the shadow does not stay on that spot for more than about an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half. So any one spot is clear of an incremental shadow arising from this project after about after about an hour and a half in that part of the day. And you can see most of it is cast onto the north side of Dundas, and there is very, very little that is cast beyond the Dundas Street East properties. So, Mr. Chair, that is my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Yes, thank you very much. Just one from me. So I saw a recent comment or report from essentially, I guess, heritage planning. And essentially, I think that they're asking is that before any building take place, that the plans should be submitted to heritage planning for their review. Is that satisfactory?
It's not a problem at all.
No problem, okay. All right, members, questions for the agent, Mr. Goldberg? Anything?
Sure.
Yes.
I have a quick question, Mr. Goldberg. Could you tell me, you mentioned the reconvening of that planning committee?
It's a working group.
A working group, sorry. And was there invitations or participation from any of those residents in the neighborhood districts there?
Yeah, there were about 78 invitations sent out. There were about 18 or 19 people that attended the meeting, which was the same protocol that took place during the rezoning process, but this was specifically for the C of A process. And at the meeting, there were a lot of things discussed, including the kinds of positive things that Mr. Peter Dietz had indicated in his email, and there really was not, I'm just reporting to you, it's me saying it, but there wasn't any fundamental opposition to the proposal that is currently before you today.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Deputy Secretary, is there a speaker on this matter then as well? I thought there was, eh?
Yes, Paul Connolly, you have been muted.
Mr. Cannoli, you on the line? All right, let me get this thing here. I get this sucker.
I'm Paul Connolly, 210 Ashdale Avenue. You've been unmuted.
Yeah. Yeah, he's there. Hi, Paul. You have been unmuted, so go ahead with your speeches.
Hello, Paul. Can you hear us? You've been unmuted.
To the chair, we have reached out to Paul numerous times, as well as another speaker too. So why don't I unmute the one that is online at the moment, and I'll try to reach out to the last speaker. Okay, give me 1 second.
Is Mr. Connolly, is he part of the Ratepayers Association, or is he, do we know? We don't know?
Hi, it's Carol Zalalian. Can you hear me?
Hi, Carol. Yes, you have been unmuted. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much. Paul Connolly's with us with St. Jude Community Homes, so I just wanted to, I'm sorry he's having some challenges. I want to thank you for this opportunity to address the committee. My name's Carol Zalalian. I'm the Executive Director of St. Jude Community Homes. We're the owners of 270 MACLEAN Street and 393 Dundas Street East, Toronto, Ontario, adjacent to the property as Mr. Goldberg identified. We have the support of the City of Toronto and CMHC to develop a 12-unit, deeply affordable apartment building for individuals living with mental illness at 393 Dundas Street. The issue I bring forward today is one that we see as related to the City's Toronto policies, planning policies to build complete communities, and the City's housing TO plan to develop 18,000 supportive housing and affordable units by 2030, as well as the Provincial Growth Plan 2020 policy to achieve complete communities with access to a diverse range of housing options. The issue is that both the applicants, ourselves and 401 Dundas, will impact the infrastructure of the community service provided by Toronto Hydro's high voltage lines that run across the south line of Dundas Street. Both the proposed buildings encroach within 5 meters of the required setback identified by Toronto Hydro from the lines. Toronto Hydro quoted us a cost of over $550,000 plus HST for the work to redirect the lines away from our site, including the relocation of the line in front of 401 Dundas Street East. Now, St. Jude is ahead in the development process and recognize that this proposed luxury condo will also benefit from any infrastructure capacity work we undertake in costs related to development as well as schedule. Given the focus of the earlier cited policies and municipal and provincial growth plans for inclusive and complete communities, it seems unrealistic and inappropriate for a nonprofit charity developing much-needed affordable housing to subsidize a luxury condominium development. We're asking for the committee's support to encourage the applicant and ourselves to work out a proposed cost-sharing, prorated cost-sharing arrangement, and I'm really encouraged by what Mr. Goldberg said. Please know that since our submission, while the applicant did outreach, we did outreach, and he did respond, and they indicated they have no issues with Toronto Hydro, but it's also important to note that when we also do not have any issues flagged by Toronto Hydro at this very early stage of development that they're in. The encroachment for us for the above-ground wires was identified with Toronto Hydro at the site planning approval. So we did encourage outreach a couple of more times, but without any response to date. So again, I'm encouraged to hear from Mr. Goldberg that they want to work with us. And again, given the direct implication and outcomes outlined in the municipal and provincial plans and policies, we ask the committee support or consideration to encourage the applicant to work with us in a timely and collaborative way in good faith to look at these issues and prorated any cost-sharing arrangements with us that are applicable to them. That said, also for them to reach out actively to Toronto Hydro and to inquire further about their stance that this does not apply to them. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, members. Any questions of Carl? No? All right, thank you, Miss. All right.
Yes, through the chair, I have reached out to the municipal address 275 Berkeley Street as well as 22 St. Clair Avenue East, but was not able to reach them.
Not able to reach them, all right. Okay. All right, so we'll go back to the agent, Mr. Goldberg, for any final comments?
The only comment I'd have, Ms. Eileen, first of all, Ms. Ornella Rikiki, the Chief Development Officer at Resident, who are the owners of our application, did correspond on June 12th to Ms. EVELYN, who I think was the speaker that just spoke to you. And if there is a cost-sharing matter, then I don't think that this applicant will have a concern with sharing costs with the St. Jude Community Homes people. However, we have been through a site plan approval process. We continue to we'll have to process an amendment to the site plan application pursuant to this approval, should it be the committee's wisdom to approve it. And if we are identified by Toronto Hydro, which we have not yet been identified by Hydro as being within that 5 meters of that, because we do have setbacks, as you can see from this plan, from Dundas Street, then we will be obliged to, of course, participate. But short of that, if we are not, if we are set back appropriately according to the Toronto Hydro requirements, then there is no cost. And the fact that this is a luxury condominium really is not relevant to the matter. So, having said this, I'll just reiterate, members of the committee, if the facts bear out that, which we don't think will, but if they do, that there has to be participation. This is a private matter as between the St. Jude community and this owner, and it really doesn't have anything to do with this application.
Okay. So I take it then, just to sum up, if you have the required setback, then you may not be affected at all by the hydro issue.
That's our thinking, and you know, we've been through quite a detailed site plan approval process, and it just, you know, because we are set back from Dundas, it could be that we are. You can see here we are set back 2.173 meters from Dundas, from our lot line, and we have a 6-meter boulevard we're creating between the private land and the public boulevard. There's from the face of the building to the curb, there's 6 meters. So it will remain to be seen whether this requirement that is being imposed on the St. Jude people also is imposed on this applicant.
Okay, thank you. All right, members, I think we should take this into to committee for discussion and views. I had some difficulty myself with the application. I don't know if it should be considered minor when, say, committee is asked to take 10 stories up to 14 stories. Is that more toward the nature of a zoning bylaw change? So that's an issue that's concerning me or troubling me. Be good to hear any other comments on this application. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. These are always difficult, I think, because on paper, they're large variances in terms of GFA and height. Like the GFA is going up almost a third. And we hear similar reasons from different applicants. And I personally, I find it hard to choose where to land on these. In this case, I think I'm trying to look at the impact, and I think the impact isn't huge. It's shadow, which this is a relatively wide building, so I don't think that the shadows pass extremely fast. But the shadow studies look like the incremental impact of the shadow is relatively limited. So I don't know. I'm feeling like I'll probably be supporting this, but I really want to encourage the applicant to work with St. Jude's because, even if it's information sharing or, I understand it's really not an issue that's before us, but I think for everyone's sake, that would be a positive thing.
I'll just make a comment. I have trouble with these because I believe that folks just 50 meters away or so get notice, and so when we don't get objections, I'm not sure that we're hearing from everybody in the community. And so when I see that the shadows where they're impacting are more than 50 meters away, like for instance, there's a fair bit of coverage in December over the school across the street, let's say. It seems problematic to me because I'm not sure we actually do get to hear from everybody.
Yeah.
And I think when I'm thinking about what's a minor variance, I look at the whole way the Planning Act has set up that structure with giving notice to people who are affected.
Yeah.
And we did have that training, or, we have discussed as a committee that recent decision, that judicial review, where they were talking about where the court said, these minor variances are really the smallest things that, come before the planning department. And when something comes recently through such an extensive process as this one, it makes me wonder why it's not going back to the same sort of a process for a 40% increase in the number of stories. And then for me, I'm not sure that it's, it is an appropriate step between what's there and then the neighborhoods that it abuts. But I do recognize, on the other hand, this is a transit, a lot of transit here, and this is a good place for development. So I'm sort of mixed on how I think about it.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say we're seeing more and more of these types of applications where we're getting requests for top-ups for existing either condominiums or rental properties. And we will likely continue to see these, and we will, all of us, be, I think, better served once the city kind of wraps its mind around what we should be doing with these. Right now, it is a legitimate path for these guys, or these applications, to come before us. In the future, it may not be. I look at each of these in context. Everyone's different. We have approved some, we have refused some. And the reason is because of where they are and what the context is and what the impact is. In this instance, and the history behind it, in this instance, many of the ones that we have difficulty ones are ones that go to the board and where there's ratepayer association, and there might have been negotiations that satisfied local community concerns. And then the applicant comes back in asking for more over and above that opposition. This isn't that case. This is a case where it didn't go to the board. There was a negotiation with city staff, and a site-specific zoning bylaw was struck. We have an incremental increase before us, and city staff haven't weighed in on this one, which I'm going to assume means that staff didn't have any problems with this application. There is shadowing and there is incremental shadowing, and it is to the area north of Dundas, which seems to be impacted. But not to belittle it, but it does kind of move throughout the course of the day. And as Doug says, this is, I again look at the context. This is on Dundas. This is a major corridor. This is an area like some of the others we've discussed today, which are likely going to see quite substantial transition going forward. And while 4 stories on 10 seems like a lot, I don't know if incrementally the impact is dramatically more than a 10-story. So while I think we all will benefit from some additional guidance from the city about how to deal with these applications. Right now, in the context of where this is, what is proposed, and what the impact is, I think this is, I'm okay with this application.
Okay, you've convinced me on that. I think at some point, but it's not happening right now, the City Council may set out some new criteria to suggest what other considerations Committee of Adjustments should take in. Yes, the only planning report I saw was some heritage planning, so I guess I have to assume that planning is okay with that increase in height. All right, would anyone care to put a motion forward then on?
Sure, thanks, Chair.
Yes.
For the reasons I stated before, I move approval of the application subject to the heritage condition, and I'd just like to reiterate that it'd be very good to see the developer work with St. Jude's and Toronto Hydro.
Yes. That'd be seconded by Mr. Clay then, and all right, all in favor and all opposed, so all in favor, okay. Mr. Wilkins, you dissent? Yes, all right. All right, we've got I guess a 3-1 vote in favor of approving, subject to those conditions, the heritage condition, and perhaps we can't really oppose a condition in terms of the hydro and the cost sharing, but we hope that the owners will continue to talk together and work out whatever arrangements are necessary.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we could put it in as a for the record in the minutes, if the members would be okay with that.
That'd be great, thank you.
Good idea. So just to the applicant, Mr. Goldberg, so we're just going to try to add into the city minutes then, rather than an actual decision, but the minutes to reflect essentially that we're hoping that the parties can continue to talk. That would involve the Jude homes and that whatever cost sharing, if cost sharing arises, whether that can be done and worked out with Jude homes. So that's our hope. Okay, we've dealt with that matter. We move to number 30 on our agenda, 201 Palmerston Avenue, and I'll just get to that. All right, should be reasonably short. Construct a 1-story ancillary building, detached garage in the rear yard, abutting of the laneway. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, 4 photographs. We have the email from Transportation Engineering Transportation Engineering Coordinator, excuse me, from Transportation Services. We have 3 form letters in support signed by owners or occupants of 197, 199, and 203 Palmerston Avenue. just check. I don't think there are any other, no speakers are on. All right.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online and then no registered speakers. Mr. Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'm Kyuta Kim here to represent the owner of 201 Palmerston Avenue, Toronto.
Right, thank you, sir. I'm just calling up the, just need a moment, just calling up the variances that are being requested. Just doing some magnification here. And members, do you think there's any need for a discussion here? I don't think so. So we'll just ask you to stand by as applicant for the moment. This is, you know, perhaps I'll just, I'm not, just reading from the purpose, I just wanted to ask you. So it's a one-story ancillary building. It's a detached garage that's being built. This isn't any kind of living suite then, right? This isn't a laneway suite or garden suite, anything like that?
Not at all. It's only for parking purpose.
Okay. All right. House parking. I don't even care to put forward a motion then, if we take this into, why don't we take this into committee?
Chair, I'm happy to bring a motion.
Please.
These are small variances that are being requested. The only one that is slightly large in percentage is number 3 in terms of the lot coverage, but what is being proposed is completely in line with the overwhelmingly prevailing character of the garages in the backyards of these houses, and this is just replicating that same dimension. So I can see no negative impacts of approving these minor variances. I move approval without condition.
Yes, I see no force condition. All right, is there a seconder for that? All right, thanks. I forgot Mr. Wilkins. All right, all in favor then of that? Yes, all right, it's approved unanimously. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, all right, applicant, you have your minor variance approval. Going on to item 31, 130 Bloor Street West. Just going to take to that for a moment. Yes, Madam Secretary Treasurer, yes. And we have the agent applicant available, do we?
Through you, Mr. Chair, if we can just introduce the file and the materials, and then we'll unmute Benjamin Larson.
Sure.
Who's the agent? No registered speakers on this file.
Right. So at 130, we're altering an existing 22-story mixed-use building by reducing the amount of parking spaces provided in the underground parking garage. Committee has the usual survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. 2 photographs of trees on the property, covering letters from Benjamin Larson as agent. A 23 decision of committee is referenced. There's email correspondence from Transportation Engineering, and there's a staff report from, Property Planning, and I say it's TTC, it's TTC comment. All right.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we'll unmute Benjamin Larson.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. And
Benjamin Larson, partner at Elevate Planning and Project Management, and address is 15 Gervais Drive, Suite 503, Toronto.
all right, thank you. I think we all know Bloor Street pretty well, but just to 130, I'm just trying to orient myself a little bit. Are you a little bit west of Bay then?
Yeah, if you go to slide 4, it will give you a bit of a context. Figure 4.
Okay.
Here we are. Back up 1, please. I'm just loading.
Yeah, things are just...
Just forward 1, please. Almost there. Figure 4, please. There. Oh. Computer's getting tired.
Perhaps it is. I can,
There we go, the orange star, the north side of BLOOR, in between Avenue Road and Bay Street. It's in Yorkville.
yeah, okay. Oh, okay, so there is. Let me just cut to the chase. So there was some, I'm just trying to remember, some issue with the incoming tenant, and they needed some further elevator space, and things have been sort of reconfigured to allow that. And you're asking to reduce by 4 parking spaces. Is that the gist of it?
That's correct. If I could have slide 5, the next slide.
Yeah, sure. Okay, sorry, we're having technical difficulties. I don't have those slides, but I'll listen well, and I can see the variance application.
So I can see it on the screen now. If anyone else can see, it's a section view, and we tried to highlight in orange. That's where the commercial tenant will be occupying. It's the ground, second, and third floor. And to promote accessibility within the unit, they're proposing an elevator that will provide accessible access from the ground to the second floor. That's shown by the red on the screen. And then you can see below it in blue, that's the elevator pin. So that goes into the existing parking P1 level, and it requires the removal of 4 parking spaces. That's the gist of it.
Thank you. Members, any questions for this applicant? No, nothing, all right. So I'll just ask you to stand by then for a second, a moment. We're going to take this into committee. Discussion, anyone? Seems like a good explanation for the change the variance that's being asked for, and it's not in my view huge.
Actually, Mr. Chair, maybe we should just ask the applicant whether they have any objection to the TTC proposed conditions.
All right. We'll come out of committee then, just to ask, thanks, Agent, just standing by. So is a proposed TTC a condition?
I've reviewed the condition, and the owner has no objection to that.
All right, good to hear. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, if we're back in committee, I'm happy to make a motion to approve subject to the TTC condition from 5 June 2024. I think this harmonizes what the city is trying to do with their new bylaws. I agree with the planning rationale provided by the agent. And even numerically, it's a relatively small increase, and it doesn't affect the residential parking. So it will have less impact on visitors to the neighborhood than another proposal to reduce parking. So I vote to approve subject to those conditions.
I can second that, Chair.
Second that by Mr. Reed. All right, all in favor of that approval? Okay, so you have your approval subject to that condition relating to TTC. All right, thank you. All right, moving to item 32. 239 Evelyn Avenue. Let me just get to that in a moment. Okay. Okay. Item 32 on the agenda, 239 Evelyn Avenue. Here's the purpose: to alter the existing 2.5 story detached dwelling by constructing rear additions to the first, second, and third levels with a rear ground floor deck. The ancillary building, attached garage to the abutting garage at 237 Evelyn Avenue in the rear yard, will be maintained and unaltered. So I've got a 2.5 story dwelling by constructing rear additions, first, second, and third levels, and a rear ground floor deck. We have the agent available, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, sorry, did you read through the materials on file? This one?
I did not. The committee had before it a plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have a cover letter from Matthew Lawson as agent. We have an arborist report by Brightleaf. We have presentation materials from Mr. Lawson as agent. And there's some supporting correspondence from Tammy and Sean Jennings at 237 Evelyn received June 12th, 24. So our next door neighbor at 237 is on board.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have Matthew Lawson online, no registered speakers for this item.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Lawson.
Hello, Matthew Lawson here, VFA Architecture and Design, acting as agent for the owner at 11 Watkinson Ave in Toronto.
Yes, thank you. Just calling up the agenda there. Okay, 870, 97. Okay, so just the two variances related then. We've got the request for the height about the exterior main walls and I guess setback, I guess, of the ancillary building. Okay.
That's correct. I'm happy to walk you through specifically the variances we're seeking or answer any specific questions you might have.
Well, why don't you walk us through, but we'll just ask you to be very concise, just so we'll understand it a little better.
Sure. If staff could make available the proposed site plan, I think that's the most concise
Good.
drawing that we can in the presentation materials, preferably.
Hi, staff. Is that available, those presentation materials? And I say that as one of the members who's lost the use of his monitor, but I've got the document.
If that's not available, I can speak to it in more general terms. Maybe.
All right. Just as I was reading out the purpose, I was sort of reacting to the fact that, additions, first, second, third level, like, that. And then a bit surprised to see just these two variances that are needed. But go ahead.
Okay, so I guess this is not the version that was included as part of the presentation materials, but it's helpful nonetheless. Here we go. Okay. So this will be page 2 from this document.
Through the chair, I'm just having some technical issues.
Okay, thank you.
So maybe to speak to, firstly, your comment regarding only 2 variances. As you can see here, we have a view of the existing front elevation of the house where it does present to the street as a 2.5-story building. That is the kind of predominant character of houses along the street. The addition that we are proposing is a rear addition, as per our cover letter. This is ground with a small addition at the rear, and then set back from that, we have a 2nd and 3rd story addition as well. The proposal does not maximize building length. Here we go. So the proposal does not maximize the permitted building length, where we're permitted 17 meters, as illustrated in this diagram. And the 3rd story addition that we're proposing is limited in scope. So as noted here on the south side, facing 237 Evelyn Avenue, we actually comply with the required or the permitted maximum area of I guess dormer. On the north side, we are requiring this variance. You will note, however, that the proposed 3rd story addition is set back from the front elevation, and again, does not extend the full permitted length of the building. The proposal is compliant with the permitted gross floor area, and we furthermore have no variances that we're seeking for soft landscape, either in the front yard for the rear yard. The existing brick garage to remain, as noted here. We're seeking the variance for the required setback here as a result of the proposed extent of that rear ground floor addition. We're essentially encroaching slightly into the required setback there, but we are still providing, a very reasonable amount of space for passage there. And this is largely as a result of both our clients and the neighbors' desire to maintain that existing shared garage.
Yes, right. Thanks so much. Any questions from members of the panel members? No questions. All right, sir, I think that we'll take this into a committee. If we need to get back to you, we'll come out of that. But for the moment, we're just taking it into the committee and ask panel members any comments and any motions. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll start, Chair. I think this is a reasonable proposal. I like the fact that the rear addition is stepped back and minimize the impact. I do note from the agent's photographs, it looks like there's a brand new build right to the north. So I don't think there'll be any impact to the neighbor to the north, and the neighbor to the south is already supportive. So I think the variances before us are really quite minor. I don't think there's a negative impact on the street or the neighborhood. I think it's quite supportable. I'm happy to move a motion to approve with no conditions.
Is there a second to that? Mr. Wilkins. All right. All in favor for approval and no conditions? All right, sir, you have your variances. They've been approved. Okay. All right, moving on to item 33. 598 Rushton Road. Purpose of the application is to alter existing 2.5-story detached dwelling by constructing front and rear third floor additions. A portion of the roof will be a green roof. Committee has before it the following communications: a plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have 5 photographs of trees on the subject property. We have presentation materials and showing photos of new builds in the area. That was carried out by the agent. And presentation materials, from Freya Bernal's agent.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have Glenn Rubinoff online for this to speak for this one, and no registered speakers.
Okay, just Mr. Rubinoff as agent, then, is that right? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, it's Glenn Rubinoff from Rubinoff Design Group.
Yes, thank you. I'm just taking a quick look here. Yes. So just a quick question. When it says a portion of the roof will be a green roof, we don't have, say, all of the criteria and details that are sort of mandated by the city as what a green roof should be composed of. Do you just want to address that briefly? Tell us a little bit about this green spot. Yeah.
Sure. It's there's addition. It's an existing gable-end roof, and they did an addition at the front of the roof to expand the attic area, and at the back of the roof. The back of the roof, the portion there, they extended that up a little bit just to create a portion of the roof with a green roof on it. It's really just a portion of the roof that is built up, and the thickness required to allow for proper development of it, the bed and such, to put it together without cutting into the ceiling height is partially what the height variance is for. So it's just a portion of the roof. It's not a variance for the green roof per se, but more the wall height for the rear portion.
All right. Just taking a quick look. All right. Thanks. Members, well, we have then the applicant on the line. Questions for him arising from these 2 variances? No? Okay. All right, sir. Mr. Rubinoff, I'll just ask you to stand by. We're going to take this into committee for discussion. We'll be back soon. Okay. All right, members, do you want to proceed with the, we have no opposition. We have these two variances. Yeah.
I'm happy to. I think with 3 variances. One seems to be repeated though, is that? Or front and rear, sorry. Yes, I think that these are minor changes to the structure, and I think the green roof portion is a positive element of that, and the GFA is really just a small increase, and I think that the way that additional main wall height is expressed it fits in with the neighborhood, and I don't see there being a unacceptable impact from that. So I move approval without condition.
Yes, I see no. All right, is there a seconder for that approval? Seconder, all right, Mr. Wilkins? All right. All right, all in favor then? All right. Mr. Rubinoff, you have your approval. There are no conditions attached. Are you still there?
Thank you. Yes, I was muted, so thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks very much. All right, item 34. Okay, we really be centering in on perhaps the final issue here. Item 34, the address is 45 Grandview Avenue. Here's the purpose is to alter the existing 3-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear 2-story addition with extended basement storage below, a new ground floor deck with stairs and a patio, as well as an enlarged rear 3rd-story rooftop deck, and that's above the 2nd-story addition. Committee has a copy of a plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 2 photographs of the subject property, reference to a 2005 TEY decision. Under support, we have 2 form letters in support, signed by owners or occupants of 43 and 47 Grandview Avenue. That appears to be on both sides. And also there's a 7-signature petition in support, signed by owners or occupants of 39, 40, 43, 47, 49, 51, and 54, all on Grandview Avenue.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Yes. And all right, we can invite the agent applicant to come online and identify yourself and give us your address, and we'll proceed from there.
My name is Tasneem Badruzama from Replacement Design, acting as...
Sorry, we can't hear you.
Yeah, could you speak up, please?
Is it, am I audible now?
That's better now, yes, at that level.
Okay, perfect. My name is Tasneem Badruzama from Replacement Design, acting as the agent for the owners. Our address is 911 Davenport Road. I'm happy to provide a brief presentation if it is required.
Just this. Just hang on a second. I just want to just take a look at the applications. All right, why don't you make a short presentation on this? Yes, I note that there. I note that there are just having technical 7 variances. Sorry, we've had some technical problems today, so bear with us.
No worries. So going to our presentation, maybe we can go to the 2nd page.
Okay.
I think I'm basically focusing on 3 variances. The first one is side yard setback. It is triggered because the property lines are at a slight angle to the house itself. So even though the addition is in line with what is existing, the property lines kind of angle in, which reduce the setback. If you look at the existing and proposed noted in this presentation here, existing is 0.34 meters on the east side, proposed is 0.33 meters, existing is 0.27 on the west side, and proposed is 0.17 meter. If the property lines were not at an angle, these variances would not have been triggered. We also have a couple of decisions, past decisions of setbacks far lesser than what we are requesting that were approved. The variances with respect to deck setback, roof eve encroachment are all in relation to this setback variance. If it was, just an addition in line with the property lines parallel to the build, those variances would not be triggered. Moving on to the next slide. This is in regard to the main wall height variance. This is again a technical variance. The existing height of the main wall is 9.68 meters. Our addition outlined in red over there is actually much lower than the existing main wall. But since we're adding a new rear wall, this variance is triggered for what is an existing condition. We also have a number of past decisions that were approved. And just to note, the height of our addition is 7.035 meters, which is well within, what is required. Moving on to the next slide, please. The next variance is for floor area. It's a modest addition on the main floor and the second floor. We've stepped back the second floor to reduce the impact of shadowing and the towering effect on our neighbors. In total, we're adding around 300 square feet. We also have several examples of projects with higher variances for floor area being approved. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you for that. Members, yes, go ahead, Mr. Clay.
Thanks, Chair. Just the balcony, it's hard to tell from your drawings. Do you have screening on the side?
We have not proposed any screening, but we're happy to add this. The balcony is, it's existing. On the west side, there is no existing screening. We are expanding it towards the east. So if we need to add screening on the east, we're happy to do that.
Yeah, I think that might not be, I mean, you're pretty close to your neighbors, and we don't have any correspondence to suggest that they're unhappy with that, but it might not be a bad idea just to put it on the east side as well.
Certainly, that should be fine with the owners.
Okay.
Anyone else, members, comments? No, all right. All right. Larry, you're free to launch.
Sure. Again, I think this is a modest rear addition, and the variances before us are really quite minor. I do think there is a bit of an overlook issue on the east side, so I will move approval of this application subject to the condition that the east side of the balcony be constructed or have appropriate screening, privacy screening on it. And other than that, no other conditions.
Yes, so second.
I'll second that, and also just wanted to add to the applicant, the presentation materials you went through were very well done and clear, so thanks for that.
That's terrific. All right. All in favor then of that approval with the one condition relating to privacy screening on the balcony? All right. Thank you, Ms.
Did you take a vote?
Oh, I was thinking, why don't we take a vote on that? All right, okay. All in favor? Okay. Matter's been approved, subject to that condition relating to the balcony. So we thank the applicant agent for being our last submission today. Okay.
So through you, Mr. Chair, we're adjourning at 5:55 p.m.
Yes, thank you. All right, noted, and thank everyone. It was a trying first start, but I think that we've done well, and we've brought in the whole agenda even a few minutes before 6 o'clock, so congrats. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thanks, guys.